I am, for all intents and purposes, a journalist. You know, I'm in the industry to at least enough of a degree to get maybe allowed into an event like that. But I got in just a little teeny tiny bit too late. And you know what? Like, it's funny. Like, for the most part, I'm just kind of whatever about it. But like, every once in a while, kind of rarely, but it happened like yesterday when I heard the news. Every once in a while, I'll think about it. I'll really think about what it means. What it means for the whole thing to be dead, or you know, even just open to the public, just not the way it once was. And it will really genuinely hit me, like deep down in my gut, that I never got to go to E3. I never got to go to that magical wonderland. I never got to be part of that crazy buzz back when the whole entire year was condensed into that 1 week. There were no presentations outside of E3. It was all E3. That must have been incredible. That must have just been completely unreal. I never got to go. What I would give to have gone just one single time. But life is a series of meetings and partings, and that is the way that things change. They change, and that's really just, as you get older, you start to realize that things change. And it's not even just that they change. It's not even just realizing that things change. It's that they don't ever change back. They don't ever change back. They change. And you can't stop it. You can't stop it. No matter how much you want to. So yeah, E3's dead. I'm sorry, I'm in my mid-30s. This is just kind of, this happens every once in a while. I'm gonna go right down.
It was like just sloping up the hill. It was button mashing.
I'm entering my villain arc at this point, I think, guys.
What is it about the first warm breeze of the season that makes you feel lighter than air? No matter where you are when it crosses your path, you'll feel compelled to see where it leads. The first step begins at the Lincoln Spring Sales Event.
If your team solves complex problems, you need to try Lucid. It's a visual collaboration suite that helps teams identify and solve problems faster. By visualizing your work, you'll be able to see what to do next. And it doesn't matter what you do. Product development, software engineering, IT, marketing, project management, sales. With Lucid, your team can create a shared vision and get on the same page. Brainstorm visually on an infinite canvas. Identify your team's best ideas. Share, comment, collaborate, discover opportunities, spot problems, draw conclusions, make decisions, and win over stakeholders to get your work across the finish line. When everyone has the same vision, they can build the future together. Solving problems is better when it's visual. Try Lucid today.
fact that the final recording is about rooms being sealed in a game about Springtrap, who was sealed in a room, with the recordings being found in the FNAF 1 location along with the Funky Rabbit Man, leads me to believe that these tape.
I just like the idea of William Afton as the Funky Rabbit Man, honestly. Just the idea of Funky Rabbit Man just like busting out like, whoa, that bar! Doing his little spring like dance. Hey guys, and welcome to GT Not Live, where today Ash is back and Sam is in the scene. We got everyone. How many mental entities does it take for me to have the right light? Ash is adjusting the light. This is last time was the time that I was talking about the lighting, right? And I was like ranting about the umbrella light and how everyone wants the umbrella light and this and that, right, Sam?
Yep, that was last time.
So Ash is here now. You're back from whatever you were doing.
Yeah. I'm not near my.
You're not near, but just you can either shout really loudly or you can just find the nearest mic.
I was fighting demons.
Oh, what sort of demons?
Mental and personal. No, I'm kidding.
A fight that we can all relate to. I was hoping you would say like, oh, Satan incarnate, or like, succubi, swooping down. Oh, you know, crippling anxiety.
Well, how do you know that's not the form that they take?
I mean, that's true. Maybe.
You're not in my head. I'm in yours, though.
That is true. What form do your personal demons take?
You know, I could describe it, but I'm worried that the mere description of these will frighten you to your core and could possibly summon them.
Wow, okay. That's fair.
It's not the space for
That's
it.
fair. So in the meantime, you're just gonna roam around and adjust the lighting.
Yes, sometimes light is what you need to face the darkness.
The darkness on this side of my face, so if we could just like balance that out, that would be great. No, last time, just because Ash didn't see the last episode. Last time I was talking about how like, whatever, we're doing it because if it doesn't look great, that's fine. It's a YouTube video, so I appreciate your attention to detail. Wow, oh my gosh, I just stared directly into it. It just, I'm so blind now.
I've seen the light.
I've seen the light. I'm not gonna see anything that we're reacting to today. How's everyone's weekend? Everyone have a good weekend?
Very exciting weekend.
Oh wow, Sam, very exciting. What'd you do this weekend?
I made it all the way to season 14 of Grey's Anatomy.
How old are you?
25.
You know what? Way to carpe that diem. Way to carpe that diem. Way to seize that day. I'm glad that youth is not squandered on you.
Thank you.
How many seasons did you binge through? Just in the weekend.
Just in the weekend?
Yeah, just in the weekend. I'm just real curious about how much of the 48-hour period of the weekend was dedicated to watching the exploits of McDreamy and McSteamy.
Honestly, maybe a season and a half.
It's an hour and a half. It's not.
No, it's a season and a half. And we're talking about like mainstream media television series. Like this isn't like modern day cable entertainment series where it's like 8 episodes and you're done. No, like
this is 24 episodes a season, 48 minutes.
Yeah,
this is an ABC Studios production.
I mean, yeah, those lasted forever, man. And every episode is basically the same, right?
Yeah, someone gets sick and they say.
Yeah, great. Or they don't. Very satisfying. Or they don't. That's it. Cool. Life and death, whatever.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's really about who's kissing who in the OR, right? Yeah. So, anyway, that's amazing. Well, speaking of lore, we have more lore to talk. Yeah, the lore of Grey's Anatomy. Because that's a lore that we're really excited about. Speaking of the lore of Grey's Anatomy, we're going to talk more about the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's here with our friend. Oh, you transitioned to it full screen.
I did.
You just want me off screen at this point. You're just punishing me. He's like, you made fun of Grey's Anatomy. That is ABC primetime programming right there.
On the way.
Ash is on the way.
You can't perceive her either because she ran.
There you go.
We got.
Yay! Teamwork makes the dream work. Well done. So anyway, today we're continuing our adventures through Ib's fantasy video where she solves my sister location problem. Last time I mean, Is it? IDs? It could be either. It might be. I wouldn't be surprised if it was IDs. I've never seen in one of her videos where she introduces herself by name.
It's true.
See? So what am I supposed to do?
Maybe she ID'd herself.
I mean, she literally did. That literally, it's right there.
I mean, it is right there, but like in an auditory sense.
Maybe. I have not heard, if she has indeed ID'd herself, I have not heard that ID.
Okay.
You know, I've tuned into one.
Would you say it's a fantasy?
Her ID is a fantasy.
Woo!
Woo! See, I like him.
I like him! And how many
For 3
seasons of
months.
Grey's Anatomy did you watch this weekend, Annette? How many seasons of Grey's Anatomy was collectively consumed in the studio? Because I'll tell you my count, 0. I taught my 4-year-old how to play charades, and it did not go well.
Oh, really?
And it's fine.
Yeah.
He wandered around on all fours, and I thought he was pretending to be Beast Bendy from like the final boss of Bendy League Machine. But oh no, he was an Antilochilosaur, or some very obscure dinosaur that he was like dunking on me for not being able to identify based on this. I'm like, are you Bendy? And like, no. Are you a deer, buffalo, dinosaur? He's like, no, I'm an Antilochilosaur, but it wasn't. It's not. Here's the thing, it was not a dinosaur that you've ever heard of. It's an obscure entity that he learned through his adventures globe, the prehistoric creatures downloadable map. So, he's like, oh yeah, obviously, it's the transitionary point between reptiles and mammals that lived in this part of the world. I'm like, okay, great. How could I have not gotten that? What a fool I've been. Staring at me in the face. We're okay. Man, ID's fantasy. We're gonna ID's fantasy. We're getting there. Maybe she is the embodiment of the id. You know, you have ego, the super ego, but she's the id. She's the chaotic. She's the I'm all about the lust for life. I'm going out there having I love that my eyeline is just shifting with you as you move around. I swear I'm talking to someone. My eyeline is like sprinkler time right here. Just keep moving.
I've grown more powerful. I've left the constraints of the corner. My time is now.
Oh no! Season it. Last thing before we hop into more FNAF talk, because that's what we need more of. Is just all the FNAF talk. Is the fact that the thing about charades, a lot of the signature charade gestures don't translate to the youth of the nation. Historically, right? If you think about how do you indicate movies, it's like this, right? But what is this anymore? I'm turning the crank of the whatever. It's like I'm cranking open a spring-lock suit or something. This isn't a movie anymore. No one does this. You want to start a film? There it is. Done. Boop. Changing a channel on the TV? Not even that though. One of the things that I tried to gesture to him was time flies. So flying, that's easy, bee versus bird or whatever. But time, historically, right? The universal indicator for time is oh, let me check my watch, time. But no one actually wears watches or checks their time on their watch anymore. You're checking your phone, you're shouting to Google, there's a clock on the wall, it's digital. The idea of an analog watch on your wrist is so full. If anything, this is a step counter, which is crazy. What would you do? At this point, what is it? Time? This time at this point? Are you the actual clock itself? How would you indicate time? Invisible people.
My mind went to stopwatch immediately.
Is that?
Yeah, I guess.
Or tapping your wrist, you're looking at a watch. Because Apple Watches are a thing.
Apple Watches are a thing, but are they synonymous with time at this point? Or is it boop, I got a notification? Because really it's check the time. Watch a video. Change the lights in my room sometimes. Whatever. It's all on this thing, which is crazy.
Or you could really over dramatically hold up your wrist and check the time.
But again, this doesn't mean anything if you don't associate time with your wrist, right? With a watch. That's what it is. I don't wear a watch to tell. I don't wear watches at all anymore.
I mean, I don't wear watches, but I still I don't know, maybe it's just a sign that I'm aging.
You also know the Beatles, though.
Hello?
Yeah, that is one of them. See, you know the Beatles. Like I said.
You think time is on your wrist, but you also know the Beatles. So those things make complete sense.
I'm saying, like, when YouTube sent us a record, player. Other story. When YouTube sent us a record player as our, like, yearly, like, hey, thanks for being a part of this thing gift, you're like, record player! As opposed to, I think a lot of people would be like, machine of some sort. What is this physical media? I don't understand. Like, you got it, right? It's like the classic, like, kids react to analog media.
This episode, turntables.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I don't know. I'd be curious. Let me know down in the comments below. How do you indicate time at this point? Do you know? Like, do you know this? If I did, whoa, let me check your time. I'm late for an important date. It's hard. So anyway, last time we were breaking down ID or IDS. Now I went through a whole episode calling it IDS Fantasy, and now I'm like, it's like the time I did OWO the entire time. Oh, whoa!
You went OWO instead of OO?
Did you not watch our channel, man?
No, when was that?
It was, I guess it was maybe slightly before. It was around the time you would have just been starting, or maybe slightly before. So,
yeah, that's my impact, y'all. You're welcome.
What,
we healed it.
Say oboe now?
Yeah.
No, that was the editors, like, raking you over the coals, being like, what are you? How did you not know that?
Ooh, which one?
All of that. It was really a collective group effort to shame me for that one. Let's be honest. It was just like all hands on deck to shame that cat.
Oh, I'm so proud of y'all.
Yeah. So anyway, IDS or ID Fantasy. We're continuing this one. I've openly admitted that the sister location placement is one of those things I've struggled with in my timeline. And I think that there was, in general, one of the things we talked about was there's a general misunderstanding about, like, kind of what I was referring to about when Michael goes back and revisits the defunct pizzerias, how I think he might have been revisiting pizzerias that were already closed, but just old buildings that still had Fazbear stuff in them, and needed, like, a skeleton crew of people to check in on it every once in a while, make sure vandals aren't there. And then he sets those on fire, right? So that's how I'm, in my own head, able to justify it happening in 1993. The biggest question mark there is obviously the paycheck, where I'm like, you know, hey, if he truly is Fritz Smith, if he is this guy who's being fired for tampering with animatronics and odor, why would a paycheck be, say, 1987 at that point? That is the one key issue in my timeline that really doesn't make sense, and it's a detail that I had to, like, be like, we can't really solve this one, but also I feel like in this story where all these pieces and parts don't quite clearly fit together, that's a minor piece relative to kind of telling an overall compelling story at this point, with motivations and things like that. We had some good revelations along the way as we were taking apart the arguments in her episode last time, but today we actually get to the solution, which I'm very excited about, because I don't know, and I'm very excited to have someone solve it for me. So let's begin, shall we?
So if Molten MCI doesn't actually impact Sister Location's timeline placement, what does? There are a few things that we can use to figure this out. First, the time frame that the Funtime Animatronics and Circus Baby's Pizza World were made. Second,
just need to upgrade this. I'm like, oh no, we're launching into random ad unit. Nope, just want to up that resolution. Great, awesome.
When William was spring-locked. And third, the reasons for Michael and William's activity at the various Fazbear locations they go to. The creation of the Funtimes and Circus Baby's locations have a lot of moving pieces, but fortunately we're told enough that we can get at least a general idea. In the first night of Sister Location, Hand Unit says,
due to the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment. Unlike most entertainment venues, our robotic entertainers are rented out for private parties during the day.
There are two things we learned from this. First, that Circus Babies was built after one of the 3 closings of Freddy's. And second, that...
Yes. One of the 3 closings of Freddy's. So you're saying... I like that you tossed it in. Oh, just, you know, just the 3 times that it closed. So what would be the 3 closings of Freddy's? FNAF 1 original location, FNAF 2 87 location, maybe 93? Or are we talking about Fredbear's Family Diner? Because that would also count as a closure. And also, when you're talking about the closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, that line is always tricky to me. Because it's like, are you talking about an individual Restaurants? I don't think so. I think you're talking about the franchise as a whole, right? That's the difference of like, hey, an individual Chuck E. Cheese closed versus the entire franchise of Chuck E. Cheese closed. And I think in this case, when you say the unfortunate closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, you got to think about it as the whole franchise of Freddy Fazbear's has basically become defunct at that. It's basically primed for a defunct land video. Let me tell you the story about like all the murders and death that happened here. Why would I say that? Because they say, hey, the stage is now set for a new brand or a new style of animatronic entertainment, right? So saying only one location closed isn't enough, right? Freddy Fazbear's might exist elsewhere. And so, you know, for a new franchise with a new concept to step in, that's the way I interpret that as like, hey, Freddy Fazbear's as a corporate entity is really closed, which again is why it kind of puts sister location towards the end or kind of like in that middle period before the reopening of the entire franchise, and that's it, right? Because there does seem to be this gap in time between Fazbear Frights, right? Fazbear Frights is like, hey, remember that thing that we all were creeped out by as kids, you know, back when we were growing up? Yeah, let's have a nostalgic party around that. Fazbear Frights happens, and Henry's like, hey, people are nostalgic about this. Let me bring back the franchise in a big way to lure all the animatronics back and finish them up on that time. So, to me, that line right there is happening in the gap between the closure of the entire franchise. There's no more Freddy Fazbear, there's no more pizzerias that are going to roll out down the line. It has to be the last closure of the building, and then you go to the next time you hear about the Freddy Fazbear franchise is in Fazbear Frights, like, as this kind of nostalgic look at. That's how I interpret that. But I have seen a lot of people, and it seems like he's interpreting it the same way, where it's like individual restaurants closing, which I think is also valid, but I think harder to justify. Because you're talking about like big franchise takeoff.
The specific Circus Babies location being referred to is most likely the rental location, as that's what Hand Unit describes rather than Circus Babies Pizza World.
The one thing I will say, and I think this is just kind of like a corollary point to what I just said. I think that there's a case to be made that 1987. Let me think if I'm going to say this right. Is this true? No, it's probably not true. But maybe, I think that there's a chance that you could make a case for the franchise itself closing roughly by the end of 1987. Because that is it's already closed once. That's your grand reopening location, which then has another tragedy happen to it. 5 more kids die. And then it closes for good. No, because then there's a third, you know that there's a third iteration of it that reopens again. Maybe it opens later that year. Again, like, for the franchise itself to close down by 1987, that's a really tight timeline. And the reason I say that is that's throwing away, like, I mentioned this before in the previous episode, where I feel like I'm the one that contributed in 1993 as, like, the big date in this franchise that everyone's like, no, but then FNAF was opened in 1993 because of the paycheck, Sorry about that. But if we ignore that, if we just kind of like throw that away, is there a case to be made that everything closes by 1987? You'd have to have a really quick timeline for that to work. Anyway.
Which makes sense, given Circus Babies Pizza World unceremoniously closed on opening day due to gas leaks. There are 3 notable points in the series where Freddy's location has closed, excluding, of course, Pizzeria Simulator, which would have to be active sister location given the fact that the sister location animatronics are present. Once after the missing children's incident in 1985, again after FNAF 2's 1987 location went downhill, and again after the 1993 FNAF 1 location shut down 30 years before FNAF 3.
Sorry, that's my contribution. I think it's locked in the lore at this point, but I think that threw off a lot of things.
This gives us 3 possible points for the placement of sister location, in between the NCR and FNAF 2, between FNAF 2 and FNAF 1, and after FNAF 1. Depending on how back the fun times were made, that could push the events of sister location further up the timeline. However, with the time these scenes have been made, I don't think that would actually change things. Despite the fact that the fun times appear relatively high-tech, that doesn't actually mean they were made closer to the present day. In fact,
and again, like, this was, I mentioned this last time, but that's one of those things that people have changed their mind about, right? When sister location first launched, it had to be last in the timeline. Lore evidence notwithstanding, it had to be last in the timeline because everyone's like, oh, these are the most advanced robots, most advanced animatronics. I think that's a decent point to be made, but I think at this point the actual aesthetics and design and technology that houses these things is less important. I think we've all kind of lessened the importance of that as a specific important point to the war.
Amongst the unreleased data for FNAF AR, there's a list of Faz Facts, one of which says some of the first animatronics built by William Afton featured claw mechanisms that were able to hide away items inside them.
And again, it's a good point. That is a great evidence point. Some of the first animatronics built by William Afton featured claw mechanisms that were able to hide. That's pretty big! And again, you get to that point of like, well, when does cut lines count? Does it count? Can you use that to help support your, like, to me, and I think this is my policy at this point, is cut lines are useful to give you an idea of a mindset of the creator. And they're not, like, I wouldn't see this and be like, oh, this proves everything. But this, I see this line and I'm like, oh, this tells me the mindset of the people who are telling this story. Let me see what other evidence points I can pull in to help support my narrative or help support my case at that point. Because it was cut, right? And again, we went through this entire drama with Security Breach where it was like, Gregory, you're bleeding! You know, no, it was, you're broken. I'll put you back together. Like, the cut lines in there, right, really strongly alluded to, hey, you're rebuilt, maybe this is a reference to Franktown, whatever. And so, is that in and of itself proof? No, but it does help support a line of thinking that you can then go to. I actually have never seen this. This is really interesting to me. And this is cut lines from FNAF AR specifically.
Amongst the unreleased data for FNAF AR, there's a list of Faz Facts, one of...
Oh, wait, they're in here. I'm curious. Famous William Afton is the man responsible for the creation of the animatronics we all know and love. That's interesting, too. Famous William Afton is the man responsible for the creation of the animatronics we all know and love. So is it like... Because he... Yes, kind of. But also, no? Like, him and Henry... Definitely Henry, despite the name, hurricanes are actually not the leading cause of death in children in Hurricane Utah. So again, we have the reinforcement of Hurricane Utah being an important place. Fazbear's Twisted Pizza recipe included most yummy by 6 out of 10 children in every survey from 88 to 93. So again, that showed, So again, these cut lines, I'm surprised I never came across these in my research. I've seen all the cut lines from Security Breach. AR is, I will admit, is like kind of a big blind spot for me. I know the main emails that were released. I know the skins. I know the gameplay. Like I know a lot of the main stuff around. I never come across the cut lines from AR.
I think it's crazy that in every single survey between the years of 1988 and 1993, there was a question that said like, "Hey kids, what's your favorite pizza recipe?" Every single one.
Well, crucial distinction. See, this is where survey design will get you. It's not what's your favorite, it's most yummy.
Oh, yes.
So you can skew the results that way. You know, might not be the best recipe, might be the most yummy.
Most yummy. Do you think it had all of the slashes and the little asterisks around it
absolutely
too?
Did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Needed all the slashes. That's the trademark name of it.
Excellent.
6 out of 10 show, that's 60%. Who was the other 4? Pizza Hut? Most yummy? Pizza Papa John's?
Papa John's is...
Yeah, it wasn't Papa John's.
I don't know, is Chuck E. Cheese canon in this universe?
Ooh,
It'd be pretty spunky.
Competitor.
It'd be spunky if the other 4 children said Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, rival. But it's really interesting. In 1988 to 1993, so it says that like for that period of what 2-5 years, that Fazbear seems to have existed in that period. Interesting. I'm shocked by these revelations. You're still hunched over the microphone, kind of seeing it or something.
Oh no, I'm just reading very intently.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm like squinting a little bit.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Good way.
Cool.
One of which says some of the first animatronics built by William Afton featured claw mechanisms that were able to hide away items inside them. I don't know.
Okay, so my interpretation of that, I mean, obviously it's trying to indicate, like, hey, early on, but also, they're the first ones that are classified under, like, Afton Robotics. We've done a big part about the distinction between Henry Robots versus Afton Robots. Weird thing. Yeah. I mean, I could see it. That's interesting.
About you, but this sounds very reminiscent of what we see Circus Baby do to Elizabeth, the Child Ship, Cavity, and Funtime
Without
Meaning that the Funtimes and Circus Baby were probably built pretty early in the timeline, and honestly it does make sense. William had to get the board of whatever company he was doing stuff for to sign off on the designs he made, something that probably would have been much more difficult after the MCI if he would have been associated with the murders. Additionally, 3 of the Funtime animatronics, Freddy, Foxy, and Bon Bon, are clearly associated with Fazbear Entertainment characters, and by the time FNAF 2 rolls around, William doesn't seem to be associated with Fazbear Entertainment, which owned these characters, or at least in a position where he'd be making animatronics.
Yeah, the whole like is William ousted from the company is tough. For a lot of reasons. And again, like as I was working on the timeline stuff, that's tricky because he's ousted from the company, and yet Circus Babies Entertainment and Rentals is still under the umbrella that is Fazbear's. So for like at least according to the encyclopedias and some of the ancillary content outside of this that's trying to like help you see more, like they say like, oh, you know, Circus Babies and that whole brand, Entertainment Rentals, Circus Babies Pizza World, all of that is still under the Fazbear umbrella. And it's hard for me to say like, oh no, it's not. I think from a cleaner narrative standpoint, it's confusing. It's like, is he more closely associated with acting, robotics, and stuff? I don't know. It is one of those tricky ones, and especially if Circus Babies Pizza World and Entertainment and Rentals launches after the closure of Fazbear's. Again, you get into these weird territories where like things just have a lot of friction pushing up against each other, and it doesn't work quite as clean as you want it to.
Once he got permission from the board of a new company to infringe on Fazbear Entertainment's property somehow, he would have had to make the Funtimes while still associated with the company. And probably previous to the MCI, seeing as the board wasn't quite suspicious enough to not sign off on the murder robots. However, he would need a reason to make said murder robots so early in the timeline.
Right.
Unfortunately, or unfortunately for Elizabeth, I think he had one. It seems likely that the Funtimes were made to lure children so that William could study Remnant, a special substance created by the combining of souls or memories with metal due to powerful emotions, such as those created by the death of a child. This means that for William to make the Funtimes for that purpose, at least one child would have needed to possess something, and we have the perfect candidate, Charlie Emily. She was the first kid William killed, probably as a way to lash out at Henry if his whole flip-flopping between jealousy and mere worship thing from the Silver Eyes carries over to the games, and she's the first kid you see possess an animatronic. When Charlie possessed the puppet, the animatronic gained tear streaks on its face that weren't there before, something William could have seen and investigated, leading to his discovery of Remnant. Heck, the song title of the security puppet minigame in Pizzeria Simulator where we see the circumstances of Charlie's death is called Alchemist's Fantasy, which most likely refers to how alchemists had the fantasy of creating an elixir of life that could provide functional immortality.
The song names are really interesting, and I've never done a full-on deep dive and used it as like strong evidence points. But a lot of the song names that are used throughout I think I've said it so many times at this point that I'd be able to like pronounce it without stumbling across it. The Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, a lot of the song names are really interesting. One that I saw circulating in the aftermath of our Final Timeline episode was one about it's like a remaster of Ballora's song that was used in an early trailer, I think it's Security Breach or whatever, where people are like, wait a minute, you know, if this is all about Mrs. Afton's quest to like rebuild her family, and if she's in charge here, and like this is starting her story arc or her villain era or whatever, there's a connection between like Ballora and her, and I forget what song it is that is played during, I think it was during the trailer, and I'll make sure I research it before our FNAF Live talkback. But yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, that's another evidence point. I'm like, ooh, that's a really good evidence point. And again, the songs, just like, there's not many of them, but they do seem very intentionally titled and designed to like fit into, you know, just small little evidence clues along the way that help kind of tell the story. So, Alchemist Fantasy, I don't disagree. And again, like, I think we're on the same page here. Like I said in my timeline, the fact that William sees animatronics moving, you know, the puppet flying around and Freddy in the FNAF 2 location, the fact that he sees them moving around is the thing that's like, hey, that's weird, Remnant's a thing. I want to study this. This is curious to me. So I agree with that being the motivation, the impetus for him to want to capture more kids and start teaching. When it happens, it's tough. And the fact that this, and we'll see if she has an answer to this, but my concern is that if it happens off screen, it's kind of a bummer that we don't see that moment of realization. then again, this is that franchise where everything happens off screen, so who am I to complain?
About you, but to me that sounds pretty similar to Remnant keeping spirits anchored to the world of you live in. So to me it makes sense that Charlie possessing the puppet was the start of William's own alchemist's fantasy.
Sure.
He saw that something was keeping her spirit around and wanted to know how he could do the same.
Yeah, I just wish that there was like something there. I agree. We just that's a leap that we would never see, and we never see the two of them really associate or interact with each other. We never see them talk about it. Like there's 100%, and I recognize that a lot of my timeline was a lot of like here's a couple evidence points, let's speculate from there. So I absolutely agree with this. My just one concern, like we have a moment where he sees the puppet and he sees these creatures, and so it's tough.
And honestly, the fun times being built before the MCI makes sense for another reason. If it was robots making the kids go missing, and only after making sure the kid was alone, as indicated by Circus Baby counting children, William would have had an alibi. And if anyone did see what happened, it would be a machine failure, not necessarily William's fault. Of course, this had the unintended consequence of causing his daughter's death, to which he probably went, you know what, I'm doing it myself. Of course, there's also the fact...
That was she did a good job of answering my concern, because and I got there at the same time where it's like, oh, then why would he go back to killing him by hand? When you have such a convenient murder device, like, why would you go and do it by hand? And it's like, well, yeah, if his daughter got killed, then he would do it by hand. So, yeah, I guess Charlie could be the first domino to fall.
The fact that in Sister Location there was a spring-lock suit that Baby tells Mike was from her old pizzeria. So for one to be made for that location, it makes sense that it would be before their use was discontinued by Fazbear Entertainment. With all that said, Sister Location could still pretty much be anywhere in the timeline in terms of the three options I presented earlier, as the rental location could have been opened after any of the three closures based solely on when Circus Baby's Pizza World was open.
Sure.
However, as we can be pretty sure that William spent at least some time at the rental location based on the secret room that had cameras monitoring the FNAF 4 bedroom and a Fredbear plush with a walkie-talkie, the location wouldn't have opened after his death, so we can narrow things down by pinpointing when the following minigames and William's spring locking took place.
Okay, so Charlie dies, possesses Puppet. William sees Puppet, like, hey, Remnant, that's a thing. Let's learn about living metal. Let me build the fun times, capture kids, and test on them. Yeah, and then it's like, whoopsie, my kid died. So that would still allow you to have Circus Babies under the umbrella of Fazbear. That's fine, because William is still good with the company, so that checks that kind of major plot point. Like, so Circus Babies is still under the umbrella of Fazbear. Hey, we got the circus thing. And then Elizabeth gets scooped. She's sad about it. At which point then he's like, okay, I'm doing it myself. We're doing it live! You have to grab the knife and my weirdo crank. Let's go! This is still happening in... So then in 1985 is the Mr. Soldiers incident. Stabby, stabby, stab, stuffy, stuffy, stuff. They have two more stabby, stabby, stab, stuffy, stuffy, stuff. That's 1987. And then after 1987, everything shuts down. Right? Because then it's like, whoa, there's so many murders happening in these restaurants. This is a terrible place for kids. Everyone's dying. And then 1993, like, it opens up, he, like, revisits it, he starts tearing things apart. Afton's on the run at that point, he's been hiding, he's doing it at night. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, it definitely checks out. It's like, I think, yes, we'll see where she lands up on this, but if she's going the direction I think she's going, yeah, 100%. I think this is great. I think this is wonderful. It bothers, your theory doesn't bother me. What bothers me is I hate the fact that he does remote killing before physical kill. Like, it's just such a weird order of events there. Yes, Ash?
No, I'm just looking at you.
Oh, okay, you're just looking close again. Okay.
Yeah.
Every time you get up and do the awkward lean, I'm like, oh, clearly Ash has something to say. No, you just really want to get up close and personal with my image. That's great.
Do you have a problem with my stance?
No problem. No problem. We're good. I just want to make sure that it sounds like when you go up and claim your space, it feels like you're like, I have things to say. I have thoughts.
No, sometimes I just perceive.
Okay.
Which sounds crazy, because I realize I do talk a lot.
proceed. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, so anyway, no, I like this. I think where it's going is great. Like I said, my problem is more with the order of events just based on like the time. Hey, here's a bunch of futuristic robots with a remote murder mechanism. So Afton's like, it has like the weirdest 4D chess move ever, like galaxy brain move. Like, I killed one kid, it got possessed, so I'm gonna create a weird system where I grab things using animatronic arms and I stuff them in there, and it's gonna have super advanced robotic suits, but we're still gonna have a franchise that has very rudimentary suits, and then eventually I'm gonna give that up and stab kids by hand. It's just like, it bothers me from like an escalation. It's like, escalate to like 11, and then let's dial it back to like a level of like 2, 3, like, you know, normal serial killer stuff. That's, I think, my biggest problem with it from a narrative standpoint is it gives you this weird, like, back and forth, like, ebb and flow of, like, escalation of the Athens motive. So, that bothers me, but from a timeline standpoint, from, like, fitting in the evidence that everything, you know, that the series has given us, pretty good.
The end-of-night minigames in FNAF 3 show the original animatronics being led through the FNAF 1 pizzeria to the safe room by Shadow Freddy before being torn apart, leading the souls to chase William into the spring Bonnie suit that caused his death. The pizzeria is run down with a leak in the ceiling and boarded up doors, and seems pretty much abandoned as the only human we see is William. However, I don't think that means that these minigames are after the FNAF 1 location closed. First of all, somehow William had to get sealed in the safe room, as Phone Dude in FNAF 3 only found him after being told about safe rooms being boarded up or something. It seems unlikely to me that something like that could have happened if no one was there to seal William in.
Yes and no. Again, this goes to the idea of you have to question how active the pizzerias are after the building closes itself. I think I think that the leaking ceiling, the shut down bathroom, how derelict that building is at that point, I feel like you have to, like, all the clues are pointing in the direction of, like, this place is shut down, it is condemned, it is not operational anymore. So, to me, again, like, I think a lot of FNAF theories are very quick to dismiss or throw away, like, hey, once a location is closed, it's done, it's over, there's nothing else to do there. Whereas for me, I think that there is still activity that can happen, right? There can still be skeleton crews, security guards, storage that happens there. You know, we hear about how different suits are being stored in remote locations for the time being and stuff. I feel like just because the restaurant is no longer accepting customers and is no longer serving food, doesn't necessarily mean that everything else ceases at that point. You can revisit those places and sort things in those places and send them back.
The phone guy seems to have been alive when the room was sealed, as he's the one who announced the rooms at various locations being sealed with no one allowed to go in and get their belongings out beforehand, almost as though there was something to hide in there, like a dead body. Even if the other phone guy recordings seem to be from earlier in the timeline, probably closer to the MCI and beforehand, the fact that the final recording is about rooms being sealed in a game about Springtrap who was sealed in a room, with recordings being found in the FNAF 1 location along with the Funky Rabbit Man, leads me to believe that these take...
I just like the idea of William Afton as the Funky Rabbit Man, honestly. Just the idea of Funky Rabbit Man just like busting out, like, whoa, that bust! With his little spring right there.
That's like, made me think immediately of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Yeah.
This is like Willy Will and the Funky Rabbit.
Man, you really are Michigan Grandpa. The Funky Bunch, huh? Marky Mark, that's what you and your big dream, you said you're Marky Mark. Wow, we are just spitting the like most relevant of cultural references to everyone today.
We're a teaching show.
We very clearly are. What is a record player? Who is Marky Mark? The Funky Bunch. Beatles have songs. Yeah, that's it. I do like the idea, though. I wish that the FNAF movie ends with Matthew Lillard busting out of, like, a wall or something as Springtrap, doing just, like, the Funky Rabbit dance. Like, Blumhouse probably learned a lot from all the promotion around Megan, where Megan's dance went so viral on TikTok for doing this, like, weird little robotic evil dance before she murders everyone. You know, maybe Blumhouse is like, you know what? Let's do that again. So you have, like, Afton in a robot suit doing, like, a little, like, goofy gimmick that everyone on TikTok can then replicate. Are you perceiving or are you talking?
Oh, I'm speaking.
Oh, there you go. Okay, good.
So you know how when you're about to do this real big event,
yeah,
you get kind of nervous?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been told in the past by mentors and people I idolize to get that energy out somehow.
Yeah.
So maybe, and hear me out on this.
He's doing this for everybody.
Yeah, it's a mechanism to tame the adrenaline and the nerves before absolutely annihilating a child.
The funky rabbit man dance.
Exactly.
What do you envision the funky rabbit man dance to be exactly? Like, I'm in an animatronic suit right now. I'm going to off some kids. What am I doing before I annihilate them, as you so aptly put it?
So I think that legs are definitely wider than shoulder length.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And I think it's like a little bit of like a squat and a
Okay.
back kind of thing.
Ooh, okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's a really intense squat if we're like that deep, you know.
Sure, I'm on the couch, but we'll assume that my legs are spread.
You know what, okay.
I cherish those times that we spend together, friends.
Me too.
Okay, spread.
Yep, so spread. And then, you know, it has a similar energy to what Tobey Maguire does. You know, that dancing, yeah. Exactly. I think,
And all the women look at him disgusted. Billy Matthew rolling down the street.
Yeah, I think there's some cool foot stuff happening
Yeah,
too.
yeah, sure. I'm kind of restricted by my location.
Oh, sure. We can go wide, point the camera down at speed.
We could.
But do we?
But then I'm back on Wiki Feed all over again. So,
Oh, you're wearing socks.
Yeah,
right.
You can infer a lot from the socks. Just saying. I like this funky rap dance. This is a win. So basically, what we need y'all to do is to take a cutout of either Matthew Lillard with golden bunny ears, or just the golden the golden Bonnie head. Stick it onto Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3, and just let it follow, motion track, and that's it. That's the funky rabbit dance.
Yep.
And we'll
if you
send that to
want
Blumhouse.
Yes.
And we'll be like, hey, here's your marketing strategy. You're welcome.
Yeah.
At which point then everyone's like, oh my gosh, Matthew, that was so smart. You guys are doing this. Didn't solve the FNAF timeline, but you did give us a banger marketing strategy.
Yeah, and we know that Matthew Lillard's going to put his own little twist on it.
Oh, certainly.
So that's going to be a joy and a thrill to see.
I love the moment in the FNAF movie when William Matthew goes, boinks!
And he zoinks all over the place.
Yeah, he boinks everywhere.
And he eats a comically large sandwich.
It's mouth open. He gives Mangle a squeeze snack. Mangle snack. What? I was the first. I've seen everything. Okay, school. Boys. Wow. Whoa, guys. Let's kill some kids. Oh man, that movie's gonna be a trip.
It is. I can't wait for when he talks to Henry and he starts every sentence with, like, man.
Oh, look, man. Whoa, guys. Alright, let's keep going. Let's finish up with clothes.
It's a bit more spread out than we may seem at first glance, or at least that one of them was recorded in the location where they were found. But that's not even the strongest evidence for William dying before FNAF 1. That honor goes to the animatronics themselves. It's easy to assume that since this is a FNAF 1 map, these would be the FNAF 1 animatronics, and technically they are. However, there's something that these animatronics have, or more specifically, Freddy and Bonnie, that their FNAF 1 designs don't. Buttons. But you know what animatronics...
Oh, buttons! Count the buttons!
Do you have buttons? The withered animatronics from FNAF 2, which were then reused at the FNAF 1 location and made into the classics. Funny that their FNAF 1 designs don't. Buttons.
Fair, okay, so these are...
But you know what animatronics do have buttons? The withered animatronics from FNAF 2, which were then reused at the FNAF 1 location and made into the classics. Given the casing of Freddy that we see in FNAF 3 doesn't have buttons, I don't think this could be a design change made after the events of FNAF 1. Instead, I think that rather than completely redesigning the animatronics right off the bat when the FNAF 1 location opened, they simply finished repairing the withers, leaving the buttons as part of their designs.
I miss the days of just counting buttons. Instead of like, and then it becomes a robot kid possessed by the spirit of Ghost Charlie and manipulated by Mrs. X. Some simpler times back then. How many toes does it have? 3? This has 3 toes, that has 3 toes. No. It's like, well, but maybe they're speaking to it in code, and then Fazbear gets into the animatronics.
Then when William came in and ripped them apart, the endos were salvaged and rebuilt, but with new casing. After all, according to the newspaper about the FNAF 2 location's closing, the company was on a significantly lower budget, so they probably couldn't just get new ones. Which could also explain the rundown condition of the building. Rather than building a shiny new restaurant, they had to reuse one that had already been made, and as such it would be in rough condition. As for William being the only one there, it's possible that he took up a job as a security guard, meaning he would be the only one in the building as he destroyed the rebuilt wizards to get their remnant, or whatever he was doing. And then got spring locked, leaving the day crew to come in, find the dismantled animatronics and the dead guy, and build a fake wall over the original door.
And the dead, and the dead guy. Fine.
More their problems. So given William is pretty dead by the time FNAF 1 rolls around, I think we have to rule out the rental location opening after FNAF 1. Now, for the slightly more complicated part. Placing sister location
slightly more complicated part. As if all of this was totally like, yeah, so there's gonna be a test at the end of this. Just so you know, there's gonna be a pop quiz. So I hope you're studying up. Get ready. Strap in, friend.
Either before or after FNAF 2. A lot of the evidence for either side can go both ways, unfortunately. Mike gets fired for odor, could be because the dude's a corpse, or it could be that the animatronics he's tampering with smell bad because they had dead kids in them at one point.
Yeah, he's inserting himself in everything these days, that guy. He's just everywhere.
Mike draws casual bongos and exotic butters in the survival logbook. Well, the office depicted in the logbook is FNAF 3's office, so either the book was made around that time, or the FNAF 3 office was made to imitate it. Mike draws
Everything these days, that guy. He's just everywhere.
Mike draws casual bongos and exotic butters in the survival logbook. Well, the office depicted in the logbook is FNAF 3's office, so either the book was made around that time, or the FNAF 3 office was made to imitate the book. Something that could actually be possible, since it does seem like Fazbear Entertainment repossessed Mike's logbook after he used it based on the sticky notes telling the next owner to not mention the Springlock suits to anyone, but who knows.
Yeah, the sticky note. The logbook, man. The logbook is a banger. I think the logbook might be my single favorite piece of FNAF like stuff to come out. I love the logbook. I think it's great. I know last time I said like, oh, these are my single greatest moments in the FNAF franchise, where I'm like, oh, it's the FNAF 6 one and the FNAF 2 mini-game. I'll save them. The logbook, so good. I think to this day it's so smart. No one suspected it. It was really the first time that the franchise branched out into like telling lore in a very unusual, interesting way like this. And it has very similar vibes to like the Gravity Falls journals, which are awesome. I love that logbook. I wish that the new stuff that they come out with, the coloring book, the recipe book, we'll see the recipe book, but like some of the new stuff that isn't like explicitly like, this is lore. You know, I wish that there was stuff hidden in the coloring book. I bought it, nothing in it. I wish that there was stuff in the recipe book. I have it on order. I suspect that there's not going to be anything in on it. But I loved that book, and it's still, to this day, the fact that we still don't know what the Foxy Grid was trying to tell us. If it was used, it's probably another one of those, like, let's see that out there. Maybe at this point, like, let's see, if I have Scott, one question for Scott. Maybe I meet him at some point. What do I ask him? I'll ask him about the Foxy Grid. Hey, do you know how to solve that thing? And he's like, what? There's a Foxy Grid? What? Maybe he has no idea. Maybe that's not good.
I think you should ask him what his favorite color is.
Oh, obviously it's purple.
Are you sure?
End of discussion.
I was not letting you get away with that quickly.
Purple!
Purple?
Yeah.
It leaned like magenta before.
I mean...
Maybe it changed with the times?
Oh, you're talking about like the color of the characters and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'll ask him what his specific hex code.
Oh,
what is the hex code of your favorite color?
Perfect. Thank you.
Just so we're precise about it.
Thank you.
Because it might not be Urkel. Maybe it's like Royal Urkel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Mention the Springlock suits to anyone, but who knows. However, there is a way that we can be pretty sure of when Sister Location takes place. Despite what a lot of people say, I do think Scott is telling a cohesive story with this series. His author blurb in the books says he's first and foremost a storyteller at heart, and in his Reddit post about the one retcon he made, he said that while the story has developed new, originally unintended details, the pieces we are given do fit together. And that brings us to the final evidence. Narrative consistent...
Being a storyteller, though, you can make stories about yourself, too. No offense to Scott. No, but like, it's true. You can cobble it together.
See, and character motivation, specifically that of Michael and William Afton. By completing the hardest game mode of Sister Location's Custom Night, we get a speech from Michael to his father, where he more or less summarizes what happened during Sister Location. What matters here is the end of his speech, where he says,
"There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you.
when in the timeline you put him actually saying this speech, I think this gives us Michael's motivation throughout the games. William is present in the FNAF 2 location, only for Michael to show up there days later under the name Fritz Smith. William then goes to the FNAF 1 location, and by the time Mike gets there as Mike Schmidt, William is sealed up in the safe room. In FNAF 3, he finds his father and tries to destroy him, only for William to escape. Finally, in Pizzeria Simulator, he reunites with his father again before the place is burned to the ground. Pretty much every game has Michael trying to find his father.
It is interesting that, so, I'm not 100% sure if that's true. I mean, we agree, like, I think there is general agreement at this point that, like, Michael is chasing after William, and through multiple locations. Like, I think it's, no matter what you say about the, like, actual, like, order of events and timeline, it feels like everyone pretty much agrees at this point that, like, Michael has been to all the other locations, that Michael is the guy who's visiting all these other ones. Because otherwise, why is the FNAF 3 security guard having all these visions of past animatronics? That doesn't make sense. So the difference, though, is whereas my timeline proposed all of Afton's stuff happens, and then Michael kind of, like, retraces the steps, this is much more they're in lockstep with each other. And so William goes, and Michael is closely following him. Interesting. It's a minor difference, but it tightens things up on the timeline standpoint, which I appreciate. Otherwise, you're just dealing with a lot of time. It does create a large gap in time between 93 and 2023 for Fazbear Frights, where not a whole lot happens. And so I think, like, that was one of the reasons also why I'm like, oh, well, he's going back and doing all of this stuff. And it would be weird for him to, like, be going around and burning locations and attacking, you know, after Afton, immediately after Afton leaves those locations. It tightens it up to a level where I'm like, I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that, especially when you have this 20-year gap afterwards. But if all this, yeah, it's interesting. I like the concept of it. I've never considered it to be so tightly together. Because again, because everything's now layered on top of each other, it complicates. Go figure, snap. It complicates things a little bit. It's not as, like, clean from a narrative like this, then this, then this, and this. But it's like this and this, this and this. Like, you always have this kind of, like, overlapping series of events that are kind of, like, running in parallel to each other. It's possible for sure. It's interesting. I like that.
And that's a motivation that would have been given to him after essentially becoming a zombie and losing his shot at a normal life. Not only would Sister Location being prior to FNAF 2 work well for Michael's story arc, but it works really well for Williams as well. If the reason he dismantled the pre-FNAF 1 animatronics was to collect their remnant, his activity during FNAF 2 was likely for a similar reason. And if he was collecting remnant,
I did, as we were listening to this, I never thought about that, but I do recognize that that's a cool detail, where why would Afton have a crank, or why would Afton have, like, the thing that he's holding, which I originally said in my, like, second FNAF theory was a phone, right? Which, you know, at the time, that was, like, the best thing we had. But why else would he have a crank, wrench, whatever? Again, this whole time I've been assuming, oh, it's a crank for the spring lock suits, because that's what they were always kind of like, you know, oh, we gotta crank them open so you can fit into it. So I'm like, oh, it's a spring lock suit crank. But the idea that he's coming here to dismantle things or take them apart again, just like he's doing with FNAF 3, that's interesting. And I like that as a callback. It's good.
even good reason to do that. For example, his murder robots that were being rented out and possibly gathering remnant, ditching circus babies and getting all the remnant into the scooper injected into Michael. Even if Michael was instructed to go to circus babies by William, that doesn't mean William had to be dead to not be around for Michael to have the dirt to find him. I mean, for all we know, he sent Mike there, and when Mike came back filled with robot bits, William noped on out of there so he didn't have to deal with that and could focus on making up his losses.
Again, I talked briefly last time about my internal biases. I think one of my internal biases with this franchise at this point is trying to get characters off the table, so that way it simplifies the storytelling and like just tells cleaner, more concise narratives. But what John FNAF has done with his series and what Id's Fantasy, ID Fantasy here has got me to do is question, you know, maybe I'm too quick to push people off the table or like, you know, set them aside so that way another line or another character can take their part of the story. That is, I think, you know, I'm recognizing that that's probably a storytelling bias of myself. You know, where it's like, oh yeah, well, they're off the table, you know, oh, of course Charlie's not in security breach because she was, you know, she was purged away. It's like, well, but if you actually look, she probably is there in some capacity. Oh, I get it, I get it. And I think what all of these this new ilk of FNAF theorists have been doing for me is like getting me to kind of question some of those biases and get me to open up my mind and like say, hey, am I quick to kind of like write some of these characters off? I mean, I think we're all desperate to write these characters. Like everyone's like, don't bring back William, just write him off already. But I think we've all been quick to kind of do that at this point. So it's interesting to see the franchise be like, no, they're still around. You're not done with them yet.
Skip town and come back later under a fake identity like he does as Dave Miller in The Silver Eyes. Any other small details that may not line up probably do have an explanation if looked at from another angle. For example, Mike managing to get hired despite being dead could either be due to Remnant healing his body or him using an illusion disc to look normal. After all, the Scratch Fazbear Fright story You're the Band includes Mike the security guard who knows a suspicious amount about Freddy's and possession who looks like a normal college kid in the year 2015.
Yeah, that story definitely goes a long way to basically explicitly confirm or reinforce. Again, some of the Fazbear Fright, there's a lot of fluff in the Fazbear Fright stories, but that one, there's a couple that outright confirm it. It's Mike in which one is it? It's not in Home. I forget what it is, but there's the one that actually takes place in Fazbear Fright, and it's literally a story of mastery. And it's and the security guard has flashbacks to his abusive dad, and blah, blah, blah. So it's oh yeah, that's pretty much confirming that Mike is the guy there. Same thing with Your Band, right, where you have Mike, or a guy that's basically the book stand-in, going around to all the different pizza places and just busts in out of nowhere and is like, I'm gonna help you, kid, you're possessed, I'm gonna help you get rid of this, Fazbear merch. And he does it. And it's well, that was a thing. Some are much more explicit about the lore than others. GGY is kind of the current one that I talked about in the timeline, and it's kind of the one that's gotten people mad, where it's and here's this kid named Gregory, who's top of all the arcade cabinets, he's got the top score, also he's possessed by Glitchtrap and working for the enemy. Granted, in my timeline, I kind of skewed that into he's a robot kid, because I still think that there is very strong evidence to suggest that he is the robot kid, or that someone is a robot in that franchise, and he's the best fit for it. But so I say but he's working for the villain. So there's a little bit of a skewed perception there, this but not quite. But yeah, it seems there are a couple stories in the book that are and here's the lore. I'm gonna tell it to you in a thinly veiled way.
So I think some shenanigans could easily be afoot. Mike being a kid in 1983 and presumably an adult's and sister location can also be explained, since based on how much taller Mike is than the crying child during FNAF 4, he's probably in his mid-teens, meaning he could have pretty easily been 18 by the time sister location happened. Alternatively, Fazbear Entertainment is not known for caring about legality in regards to its employees, and William could have pulled some strings before getting out of there. Either way, I think it makes the most logical and narrative sense for sister location to take place sometime between the missing children's incident and FNAF 2. But hey, if you think there's addition...
Okay, FNAF 2.
evidence for something that you want me to address, feel free to let me know, as I will be reading all of the comments. If you liked the video, I would really appreciate if you shared it with a friend. And MattPad, if you are seeing this and you happen to have an open slot for your Timeline Theory talkback stream on the 25th, or open and have virtual guests, I am if that's available. Not just to sell, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't make staff, and have a nice day.
Yeah, I mean, I said this at the end of the last episode. Yes, you are already on my invitee list. 100%. Yes. Like I said, I don't know how to pronounce your channel name. Apparently, it's Fantasy or ID's Fantasy, sure. But no, you're already on my to-do list as far as people to reach out to. So great. I'm glad that you're eager. Hopefully, we'll find a time that now works for you. That's awesome. Wait, I like this. For some reason, this method of asking me makes me less self-conscious. I agree. A general call out in a video, absolutely so much easier to do than a targeted email, because targeted email feels personal. It also feels more specific, and it could be seen as intrusive or whatever. So hey, I mean, it's the same thing that I'm doing with Hot Ones, right? Where I'm hey, Sean Evans, let's get together and eat some spicy wings together. And if they ignore you, fine, whatever. You harass Jeopardy, and they're screw you, that Pat. And okay, whatever, it's fine, don't worry. But no, yes, 100%. We will be in touch, if not already in touch by the time that this video comes out. Final thoughts? Great. 100%. Actually, no, not my clapping. 7.5. Great. I think this is really good. I think it solves... I have to go back through everything in my mind, but from the big friction points that I have with the timeline that I presented, as well as kind of the big, like, again, like the tiers of evidence and the tiers of clues that you have to kind of account for. When it comes to the tiers of clues that to account for with this one, this addresses at least all the stuff on that top tier, like the most important tier, that I feel like you kind of need to address. There might be some wonkiness down towards the like lower two tiers. And I'm like, oh, but what about this? What about this? But for the most part, I like it. And I'll tell you what specifically I like. I need to think more about like, oh, it fits between, you know, before the FNAF 2 location. Maybe I have to think through that one. But I appreciate her call out of the fact that the clause exists, and then he goes back to murder. Like, that's the moment that sticks with me. I was like, oh, that makes sense why he would do that, and oh, he would learn that. Because again, the motivation of William building those animatronics so early in the timeline screen, I can never wrap my head around. And the idea of him encountering the puppet early, we don't see it, which drives me nuts, and you know, it's not like a big thing. You know, his relationship with the puppet is never really clearly defined or anything. But the fact that he meets the puppet, and then all of a sudden, you know, rolls into like, hey, I want to experiment with Remnant and stuff. Yeah, I can give you that one. I do wish that, like, Elizabeth got captured first, because that feels like such a more personal moment of, like, oh, spirits can possess things. And so, like, now I'm really incentivized to look into this, and I really am curious about it, but I see why Charlie dying, possession of Puppet, and him being like, oh, there's something here. I see that. That's fair. And I think it solves a lot of the questions that have been leveled against my timeline, as well as some of the frustrations I was having trying to fit those things together. It bothers me about the escalation thing that I talked about, but from a, like, removing my own personal narrative biases from this, it answers a lot of evidence that I was having hard time seeing, so. Good one. Good to have. Good. Awesome. Alright! Call in the editors, we're doing another 50-minute redacted FNAF theory, part 5. The timeline revisited. Redo the thumbnail. The end? Question mark.
I just heard Tom shudder all the way from the UK.
Oh, it's not Tom who needs to be shuddering. It's definitely the editing guys. Another half-hour video. No. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. I think maybe we'll see how this FNAF talk that goes, and we'll see if I'm like, yeah, let's do one more of these. See if I have it in me. So anyway, this is great. Thank you for your thoughtful comments. Thank you for the call out. Thank you for being so careful to consider all this stuff. I'm really impressed with the stuff that you've been delivering. It's really good. So I'm excited to talk to you in person as both a human being and also as part of content. So looking forward to that one. You know, human being and content. So at some point when that's going to happen, I believe right now the tentative date for the FNAF Talk Back is April 7th.
Yes.
So I believe the talk back is April 7th. We have a couple last things to confirm for that one, but hopefully that is the thing. Hopefully this video goes up before that. Otherwise, yeah, you saw it. It was great. It was amazing. And as always, my friends, keep sending me your FNAF theories. Keep engaging with the franchise. It's fun. It's fun to solve mysteries. I grew up watching Law & Order, so this is just like my version of Law & Order, I guess. So thank you. I'll see you. It's my version of Grey's Anatomy. So
Exactly.
So season 15. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. As always, remember, it wasn't a live stream, but it was a video for you. See ya!
What will you do? Will you make something better? Create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors can provide you with the tools and expertise you need to bring out the innovator in you.
You know what? I think today I'm just gonna take things easy. No intense plot recaps or cartoons, no concerning levels of denial. I think I'm just gonna kick back with my phone and play a new game. And there just so happens to be a brand new one to try, who also happens to be the sponsor of this video, Call of Dragons. Magic, monsters, mastery. Dragons. Probably. So yes, today we're gonna be taking a look at Call of Dragons, a brand new fantasy...
When it comes to the intellectual art of video gaming, there are almost no names more widely known than Mario himself. Now, if you went up to someone on the street and asked them for their thoughts and feelings on the Bun Bun, they would call the police on you, and that's a failure of the entire industry, in my opinion. Look at all these background characters. Don't they deserve to be loved too? Don't be nasty. The side characters deserve justice too. We need Goombas and Goombos living under the same roof. We need Pauline and the Boosney to be able to fall in love. Yeah. Today we're doing something different. We're going to be ranking every Super Mario character. We're going to be ranking every enemy, every little side character that appears in those games. Even Mario. Let's establish some ground rules for this video. We're only covering mainline games today, on the account of I don't want to die at the age of 23 finishing this video. We'll be counting the Donkey Kong titles and weird Game & Watch Mario releases until the Super Mario Bros. Series started though, on account of it's sort of a weird gray area. We won't be counting size or color variations of this same enemy. I will count most general variations, something like the Shoe Goomba is distinct enough to count, but a big Goomba does nothing, besides being big. Also, there are a lot of enemies and characters. And while I follow the used Mario Wiki as my source pretty heavily, human error would dictate that I probably missed some stuff. So if I missed your favorite enemy named Goobly Moobly, you'll survive. Lastly, how I rank them in the tier list depends on the character as a whole, not just the game they first appeared in, which is the order we'll be talking about them. So if you see a character model that doesn't match up with their game, that's why. Although for more general characters or enemies, I will probably use their original release as the heavy inspiration for discussion. Okay, enough babbling now. I thought you cared about what I had to say. Our first character today is Mario. No. He's certainly a video game character. I'm putting him in S tier, but partially that's out of obligation. Miyamoto's still haunting me after that Pikmin video. Originally, Mario was conceptualized as a character who could be played in any game. And well, look at this series. I think they were successful at doing that. He doesn't go above and beyond in terms of characteristics or vocals or anything like that, but he's an icon of the industry, so you get a free S tier. Congratulations. Donkey Kong, Mario's first villain, and you'd never be able to tell by this derpy little face. For similar reasons, being an icon and legend of gaming, I kinda have to put him in S tier. Not only is he a legend, he went on to spawn his own game series, which itself spawned spin-offs, most of which are good. I said most. And finally from this game we have Pauline. Now look, I'm a big Pauline fan personally. I always felt bad she got sidelined by Peach and Daisy for decades. Recently, she's had a pretty big resurgence though, by being a main character in Mario Odyssey as the mayor of New Donk City, and even finally got added to some spin-offs. For not being super prominent though, overall, I'll just give her an A. From Game & Watch Donkey Kong, I know it's everyone's favorite game, meet Mini Donkey Kong. No, not Diddy Kong, not Donkey Kong Jr., Mini Donkey Kong, D tier. Of course, we have the titular character, Donkey Kong Jr., and you know this might be the most neglected Mario character of all time. He literally was in Super Mario Kart and in some spin-offs, and then one day Nintendo was like, all time. Mini Donkey Kong, D tier. Neglected Mario character of all time. He literally was in Super Mario Kart and in some spin-offs, and then one day Nintendo was like, yeah, we're actually gonna pretend like nobody loves you. He recently made an appearance in Mario Kart Tour, but only has like a 16-bit form, and also, ew, Mario Kart Tour. I'm giving him a B tier. He's a good character, but for whatever reason, Nintendo does not agree. Snapjaws, they remind me of those Hungry Hippo games. I'm putting them in C tier. Nitpicker. Hey look, it's me, B tier, but only because of the name. We have the Sparks, which I'm putting in A tier. I think these are a quintessential platformer enemy, as it requires the player to always be cognizant and always jumping. A good way to keep you on your toes. Birds. Zero creativity in the name, F tier. Greenhouse is a Game & Watch game starring none other than, you guessed it, Stanley. Is there a single Stanley fan out there? He kills bugs and he's a generic Mario wannabe with a punchable face, D tier.
However, Stanley also appeared in Donkey Kong 3, which is why I'm even including this, which has a lot of bug enemies that he's trying to murder. So we're gonna do all of these in one rapid fire round. I'm putting Buzzbee, P-Spy in the Super B and B tier purely for the pun. Creepy is going in D tier because we take a stand against perverts here. Vine Eaters literally kill nature, F tier. Attackers strip you by juking you out, which is pretty good enemy design, so I'll give them a B. Kabuto Mushi, also known as a beetle. You know what? The name took me so long to say, so C tier. Don't mess with me, man. Lastly, we have the butterflies, which I'm also just gonna put in C tier. Now, I don't know, were you looking for a video on the history of butterflies?
What? Why are you looking at me like that? Listen, if you want a video on the history of butterflies, go to like National Geographic or something. This is not the right place.
Mario Bros. I swear this game is good. I mean, it gave us Luigi. I'm a big Luigi fan, and I'm giving him another S tier. While he might be a scaredy cat, I think that's what makes him such a likable character. And this adds some much needed personality to the franchise. Not to mention he spawned his own side series with games that are mostly good. Not that one. Sure, he's had some tragic moments, like the Year of Luigi, which was cool in concept, but yeah, Nintendo was kind of going under as a company. Also new to this game are the sidesteppers. I used to like these enemies, then I realized how often they got used in Mario Kart 8, and they're just sort of boring crabs. Like, are you even in the Yoshi's Island game? I'm putting them in C tier. You'll survive. Shell Creepers. No, they're not Koopas. They're Shell Creepers. Also putting this in C. You notice how most people don't even remember that these enemies exist? There's a reason. Fighter Flies are the last enemy. They have kind of a funny pun, or at least, I think, being a parody of the Fireflies. Maybe not. I'll put them in B tier before I overthink it. This game also adds the Freezy, which I forgot to add until now. Do these even count as enemies? It's a freaking ice with eyes on it. Whatever, B. I don't know what to put for music here. Bum ba bum 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 ba bum bum. Imagine a drive home on an average summer day. Sometimes you might see a beautiful mountain range, a busy city, a cement factory. But at the end of the day, you're a gear in the cog, an average Joe, just trying to make ends meet. So drivers get C, too bad. Alarm Monkey. Okay, easy. I mean, he's a monkey with an alarm. I want one. Buddies get a C tier. I know they're in war. Bombing people, that's not very cool of you. Heavy Smoker gets an F tier. He throws his cigars into the oil, which causes explosions. But also, smoking is bad for you, so F tier.
These are one-man death squad.
Do you really believe that he's immortal?
No, he just refuses to die.
Marie is ready to buy her first house. Go to down payment and closing costs. Those are big checks.
Good thing I have big news. Come on. When you buy with Rocket Homes and finance with Rocket Mortgage, you get up to $10,000 cash toward closing from Rocket Mortgage. Yeah, and one you can get only with Rocket. Isn't that a good deal? That's a good deal, right? Visit onlywithrocket.com and start it today.
This game only introduces Junior 2 with Roman numerals. He's pink and he's cute, A tier. Wrecking Crew introduced us to a four-man Spike. You look at this guy for 2 seconds and he just gives you a bad vibe. He was basically a Wario or Waluigi before they existed, but with no charm, so I think D tier is fair. Got a wrench? Okay, seriously, what the Eggplant Man. Why are all the enemies from this game from a drug-induced coma? I don't know. I mean, he's an eggplant man. So, A, duh.
Oh, it's this Super Mario Bros. Thing. It's a non-Game & Watch thing. Disgusting.
So, we're back to some classics here. Of course, I'm referring to none other than the Spiny. He's cute and a recurring mainstay in the franchise, but he is super annoying and not always the easiest to dodge. Not to mention, never really became a spin-off character like some of the enemies here, so I feel they're an aggressive B tier. Princess Peach.
You know, there's a time I'd probably say B, but honestly, her appearance in the Super Mario movie that's coming out quite soon, honestly was super cool in the trailers and stuff, so I'm gonna move her to A purely based on that, because I feel like they moved her from more of a stereotype to a really unique character who honestly shows up Mario himself in that movie.
I'm putting Bowser in A tier. Sure, it can get a bit boring always seeing him as the villain. However, his hysterical roles in the Mario RPG games and even the upcoming movie makes him one of the best not only Mario characters, but Nintendo characters as well. He's a bad villain, but that's part of the joke, and that's why I think this character works the way it does. Unfortunately, Toad is C tier. They're diaper-wearing babies, and for a while I would have said B tier was fair, now it became way too overused in all the Mario RPG games, making me sick to my stomach when I see them. Plus, it gets very aggravating being told the princess is in another castle. How about you go screw yourself?
Blooper! He's so cute. C.
Both bills go in A. I love the fact that they serve both as platforms and a decent enemy. Then there are the fuzzy beetles, basically Koopas that don't die to fireballs, which I think works as a decent game mechanic, especially considering progression. So at least B. Speaking of Koopas, I think their versatility, as in amount of colors, the elements, the shells introduced to game design, they're an easy A tier enemy in my eyes. I'll put the Paratroopas in the same tier, even though their shells are not as easy to grab. So I'll put them before the Koopas and pretend like that actually means anything in a tier list this big. I'm giving Hammer Brothers a C tier. C stands for classic, and that's the only reason they're even that high. Dodging the hammers, especially in the retro games with limited lives, is borderline unfair, especially when they're in groups. I'm giving Lakitu a B tier. They're annoying, but I think their role rescuing people in Mario Kart games is what makes them memorable at the end of the day, and mainly the only reason people care. I never thought much of Piranha Plant until they were brought to Smash, and now I'm moving them to C tier. The way this triggered all the Smash fans was hysterical and quite possibly the best prank Sakurai ever pulled on the fan base. Finally, we have the Cheep Cheeps. I like how they mimic Mario's swim pattern, and they are a clever enemy, so I'll give them a B. I know, I'm feeling generous. And of course, we have the Goombas of the Mario franchise. The Goombas, an all-time classic, surely. I love that they probably started in this simple, dorky form to accommodate the console being not very powerful, but they just kept the design anyways in HD. I think they're an A tier easy. Finally, we have the Lava Bubbles, fireballs with eyes. Now that doesn't make any sense. How wacky B tier. The only character that Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels introduced was Bowser's brother. This is basically a color swap with a unique name. Yeah, you know, I don't really think this is lore. I'm pretty sure they didn't plan this. This is just some weird thing they added. D tier because I think this is kind of ridiculous. Mario 2 is weird because I know it's not technically a Mario game, yada yada. Well, it stars Mario and has Mario in the title, and lots of the side characters would spawn from this game to this very day in the franchise, so we're counting it. Anyways, let's start this one off with some spice. Everyone's gonna get mad at me for this one, but I've never been much of a Wart fan. Like, I know everyone wants him to be in a new game, you know, that'd be cool, but I feel like people only like him because he barely appears in anything. He was never that good of a villain in my eyes. I'm putting him in C tier. I'm putting Mauser in A tier, purely because he made me laugh as a kid in the Super Show. Shy Guys, I think, are hysterical with the little noises they make, and they became an all-time classic to this day. So, hey, shout out to all the gamers out there who didn't own a copy of Mario Kart DS and had to play as them. Fry Guys have a hilarious pun, so also an A tier. It's really not hard to please me. This will be a recurring theme in this video. Claude Brick is a boring crap who throws rocks at you with no real personality. I don't know, I'm putting him in C tier. I do like Triclyde though. I think it's a really funny design, a snake with 3 heads, so that's an A tier from me. What do you think they talk about before they sleep? I'm a huge Birdo fan. When she was announced for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that was a peak moment of society.
Let's go!
I don't know, Birdo's based S tier. Subcon are boring little fairy creatures who left no impact on the franchise. D, they technically don't even exist, you know. Albatross is going in F tier. What a cruel goddamn bird dropping bob-bombs on innocent humans. Speaking of bob-bomb, they may be bombs, but they're cute little guys who left an impact on the franchise to this very day. And while they're bombs, I don't think they mean harm, technically. So I think an A tier is fair.
It's proof that you can draw eyes on anything, and people will say it's a Mario character. This is Mr. Water Bottle. Great character. This is S tier. This is S tier.
Gizo. Really? You couldn't have just called them Fly Guys. F tier. The Cobrat are bootleg Piranha Plants. Ooh, you're coming out of a pipe, aren't you so special? City Flurry. Okay, what the hell is this? Seriously, I'm actually asking. I don't know. C. Hoopster. Little ladybugs who climb vines? I don't know. They're cuter than the Flurries, and I'm being held at gunpoint by one right now, so B.
Please leave me alone.
The Ninja are adorable and recently have made a reappearance in the franchise again as recent as Super Mario Run. So hey, I'm giving Ostro a D tier for a lack of creativity. It would be like if Pokemon made a flamingo Pokemon and just named it, yeah, Panzer. Fire flowers with a face. Ooh, D. The Phantos. Easy F tier. Anyone who's played Mario 2, this guy makes you mad, I don't care who you are, and ruins any level he is in. Pidgeot. Little birds who have carpets. C tier because you're lazy, you're a bird, you don't need the carpet. The Pokies, though, are an easy classic of the franchise, and well designed, requiring a few hits to take them out, which is a little less common in 2D Mario. So, A tier. Porky pose disgusts me. A little clown nose, uncreative heads. D tier. Dude, I don't even know what to say about Sniffets. Whatever, C as well. Shrouder, what the hell is this? Why not just use the Cheep Cheeps? D. Why are Mario 2's enemies just so mid? Right on time? Tweeter. That design is gross F. Whale. You did it, guys. I mean, that is a whale. C.
So there is a dietary supplement available from the makers of Excedrin called Proactive Health. It has magnesium, a variety of B vitamins, and folic acid.
Super Mario Bros. 3.
Time for a group of characters I have absolutely nothing to say about.
So, there are 7 kings in this game who sit on a throne and say nothing of importance. This project was a really good idea. Grassland King. I don't know, grass was always my favorite starter in Pokemon. So, A, Desert King. Man, I hate desert levels in video games. C, oversee something better, you jerk. Water King. I don't know, A tier because he looks like Mario. I got nothing. Giant King. Listen, man, put on a goddamn shirt. C, Sky King. They really went ahead and put Jesus Christ in a Mario game. B, Ice King looks like a Raposa from Drawn to Life. So, A, Pipeland King. You can tell they really ran out of ideas, like I have run out of things to say. C tier. Yeah, I like that.
What great Mario characters. Can you believe they never came back? I certainly can't.
Moving on to the enemies. Angry Sun. It pisses everyone off. No one likes this thing. And it got a redesign in Mario Maker that's terrifying. D tier. I'm putting Baby Sheep in A tier. It means no harm. It's a little baby being convinced by its evil mom, the Big Bertha, to follow a path of crime which easily puts her in D tier. I'm putting the baby Bloober in B tier. It's too cute to not, but it's not as charming as the Baby Sheeps in my opinion. Why? I don't know. You try ranking 600 Mario characters, I dare you. Then we get to the Boo, an all-time classic in the universe of Mario. Seriously, the legacy of this enemy cannot be understated, and they've become a pretty regular character that has appeared in countless spin-offs, often being playable, making them a rare character in the middle of friend and foe. They have a lot of charm, too, in games like Luigi's Mansion with the puns, or Paper Mario with the shit-eating grins. I think anything lower than an A tier would be a war crime. Boomerang Broke. Irritating. C tier. Next up we have the Buster Beetles, and oh my god is that adorable. Annoying to deal with, and scary the Mushroom Kingdom evolution has progressed in this way, but absolutely adorable. E tier. Next up we have the Chain Chomps, another unforgettable Mario enemy, sort of in the same category as Boo. I think what they bring to the games is actually pretty interesting mechanically. I love how they juke you out and are always jumping, providing the player with a serious sense of anxiety. Gotta give them an A tier as well. Alright, here we have one of my favorites, quite possibly my favorite Mario enemy. I just love how the Dry Bones are zombie-like Koopas. I don't know, there's something so charming about them. I like how even if they die, they come back to life, making them enemies that you always do have to be somewhat concerned about. I'm putting them in S tier. I'll face the haters later. Alright, the Fiery Walking Piranha. They only appear once in the game, and it's a fine idea, so I can sleep at night if I give them a low B tier. But also, why? Fire Brother, same reasons as the other throwing bastards, C tier. Flame Chomps. I guarantee you someone has had a nightmare over this thing, and I can say that because it was probably 7-year-old me. These are partly based on the Fire Snakes, so I'll put both in B. I'm mad how cute they are and how badly they want to kill you at the same time. Electra. It's a pun, but it's not fun. It's just not. Like, I get it. It's supposed to be a jellyfish in electric. But, like, it's not funny, C tier. You know, you could have called these Shumba. I mean, the pun was right there. It would have been funnier than Gelectro. They do give a classic power of those, so fine. A. I'm giving the Lava Lotuses B tier because their fire can go through platforms and everyone yelled at their TV screen at least once due to that. Missile Bills are basically only bullet bills that target the player. After heavy donations from the Missile Bill charity groups, I was bribed to put them in B tier. Also going in B tier are the Munchers. Now admittedly, I hate that these are insta-kill. But look at them. Parabeetles. They They are fuzzy beetles that can fly, so they're basically platforms. B tier, Paragoombas. Come on, guys, this is getting lazy. Oh, we're just gonna throw wings on anything and it's a new enemy. B tier, whatever. Pile drive micro Goombas are little Goombas that hide inside of bricks, and I'm putting them in C tier because they're goddamn cowards. Come out and fight. 2B. That definitely popped them right. Putting them in A tier just because of the name. Rocky Wrenches. I love these guys because their species to me is just such a mystery. Why do they live in sewers and chuck wrenches? What's below the manhole? Is it food? A corpse? E tier. I actually like the Sledge Bros a bit more than the average throwing enemy. They're a bit chunkier, meaning they move a bit slower and are easier to predict, and I'll give them the dignity of a B tier as a result. Okay, so I know Spike has sort of made a resurgence in recent Mario games. Does that count? But I've always felt they were one of the least memorable Mario enemies. Like, I always forget it's from the classic games, and the design is just weird. So Mario Party 10 tried to rewrite history. Oh, you like these guys, right? C tier. Spiny Cheep Cheep. Nintendo, you bullies. Okay, that's funny. A tier. Another classic coming up, the Thwomp. I actually really like these guys. They're scary, sure, but they work so well as both an enemy and platform. I think they deserve an S tier.
Okay, I have a confession. I might get killed for this. I don't like the Koopalings.
I know, they're nostalgic and blah blah blah. I'm glad you like Mario 3, move on from your nostalgia. To be fair, they were fine in the old games, but as time progressed, I got really tired of their use throughout this series. But I'll try to be unbiased when giving each one a ranking. Larry Koopa B tier, Morton Koopa A tier, I do like his design, Wendy is C tier, Iggy is D tier, Lanky White Koopa is B tier, Lemmy makes me laugh, so I will give him a B as well, and Ludwig D tier, okay, D tier, I'm just sorry, that hair, it's D tier, I'm sorry.
So this is the point in the video where I started regretting doing this project.
We do also have one non-Koopaling in the form of Boom Boom. Maybe he's a cousin or something. I'm giving him a D tier because they used him so often in 3D Land that I literally just ended up hating the entire character. Super Mario Land was the series' first foray into handheld territory. It would be the game that introduced us to Princess Daisy. No more Princess Peach.
Nintendo's just having the most insane rebellious phase.
Daisy's role in Mario Land is basically none, but as a whole, she would grow to be one of the most commonly appearing characters in the spin-off games, starting with Mario Tennis, and even appeared as the main princess in the Super Mario movie. Not that one. Her voice is a bit irritating, but I think she's a cool contrast to Princess Peach being a more defined tomboy, so I'll give her an S tier.
Alright, time for the characters that you clicked on this video for.
Goombo.
See, I told you.
A Goomba clone that I don't know why they didn't just call Goomba. F tier. Bombshell Koopa. Now that is cool. I love this idea. You jump on it, but have to be careful and keep moving, or else you'll blow up as well. I think that's a really unique design. So a Bullet Biff. Just call it a goddamn bullet bill. F tier. Okay. From here, the enemies are designated by kingdoms, the first being the Birabuto Kingdom. Speaking purely about new enemies, we have the Bun Bun. What the actual living hell is this? The bee with spears, so yeah, bee. We have the Gao, dog with a crown. I'm putting in C. The King Totometsu fight mimics Bowser pretty well, so I think a B is fair for that one. Muda Kingdom, my own land. Home to the Honen. Nope, not that. They're like dry bones, but for a fish, so there are the Urarinbu that are not similar to Boos at all. I don't know. See, it's time for our first robot of the franchise, the Mechabon. This guy is adorable, and up until now, very unique, so it's easy A tier for me. Torion, a boring fish. C, regular Urarin, a boring fish. C, Gunnian, a boring fish. Wait a minute, is that an octillery? Fine, B. The boss of this world is the Dragon Zamasu. I really like this design and the fight. Hey, Easton Kingdom. Firstly, we have the Potato. What? D tier. Gontron looks like a rock that does nothing but help you move. But Mario Wiki says it's a living being. How do you get that from a Game Boy game? I'm not sure. It's a generic rock. C. Tokotoku, these enemies are terrifying. C. At least this one's grounded. Eastern Kingdom is also home to the Sioux. Spiders with a face. D. Ugh. Also, there are Humos. F tier. F tier. D. F tier. Get out of my face and never look at me again. Boss Easton is Hi-Oh-Hoi. Bless you. C. Our final kingdom takes us to the Chai Kingdom, and our first enemy is the Pyompi. I don't know. I don't like these little guys, so B. I love the pom-poms because they kind of look like a pomegranate exploding. I can't tell if it's a joke or not, but it makes me laugh, so screw it, B tier. They're the Nioloin, a generic snake enemy, so C. Oh, but they shoot fire. I don't care. Alright, I'm giving the chicken a B, because I like the helmet. Rokutan, okay, little minion guys. These are minions. Flying ships. A tier. We have the Chikako. He's a things. B tier. Biocantone. It's a cloud. Why not just call it a Cloud F? The final boss of this game is Tatanka. I think he's kind of in the wart category, a one-off villain, but not a lot to say about him. But some fans say he's the best character ever, and he needs to return, he needs to be in Smash. Log off the internet, man. I think he fits the franchise well, even if we didn't hear from him outside the Mario Land games, so I'll throw him an A. Super Mario World is, in my opinion, the peak of 2D Mario. I know, that's a hot take, right? I mean, it gave us the Delph, and how could it not be the best game? All jokes aside, Super Mario World would give us Yoshi the Dinosaur. Yoshi would go on to star in his own spin-off series, but even within the Mario franchise exclusively, he would end up being quite an asset, eating enemies, spraying juice, and being happier than anything else in this cold world. Easiest tier, my eyes, and a big reason why people even remember this game. Alright, let's get to the enemies. We start with none other than the amazing Flying Hammer Brother, which I personally like. There are multiple ways to attack this guy, and I think he has a movement pattern distinct enough to memorize and counter. 18. Blarg. Alright, this guy's adorable. Easiest tier, he's a good boy. Blurp. They're cheap cheeps, but they're not. Why they even make a different species for this? C tier. Bony Beetle. He's a dry bones equivalent of a Buzzy Beetle. Easy A tier, uneasy please. You know, the enemies so far are pretty solid. We even have a boost name. They were just kind of popping off with this game. Of course, I'm giving that an A. I'm giving Pidgebill a C. They're basically just a clone of the Bill, which is kind of lazy, but I kind of like the idea of real-world enemies, to be fair. Sergeant Chucks are a top-notch enemy, in my opinion. An all-time classic, and I think it's funny they made this sports enemy. It's almost like a parody of Americans. 18. I'm putting the Climbing Koopa in S solely for the fact that their sprites are genuinely hilarious to me. I'm putting the Dino Rhino in B tier, and partially that's because of the rhyme, and actually it's just because of the rhyme. Dino Torch has no pun. C tier, Eerie. Look at these goofy-ass little guys, all Olimar-looking eyes right here. B tier, Fish and Boo. How is he holding a flame on a string? That sort of sorcery alone deserves an A tier, but then we got this thumb guy. The Fishing Lagoon just don't have that same charm. They're too simple for my fancy tastes. And also, I remember them teasing me as a kid. Fuzzy. Put him in Mario Kart, Nintendo. I'm putting them in S2, not because of Mario World though, mainly due to the fact that I think they are hysterical in Paper Mario. Now look at this, this might be the most simple enemy design ever. It's a ball of fire with eyes. C-tier. Jumping Piranha Plant and the Jumping Fire Piranha Plant. There's a difference. Will both go in A. I'm putting the Magic Koopa, or Kamek as the kids these days call them, in S. They are a classic enemy, and a good idea to have a Wizard Koopa. And look at that. They shoot PlayStation buttons. Not quite as noteworthy, but almost as prevalent, believe it or not, in many different forms, are the Mecha Koopa. I'm not a big fan of these personally. I feel like the idea is good, the design is just creepy. I think B tier is fair. Monty Mole, he's adorable, and there better exist plushies of him or else Nintendo will be sued for emotional damages. I think S tier is also fair for the guy. Parabob-Oms. I'm a sucker for a good umbrella. A tier. Porky Puffer, basically a cheap that are a bit more aggressive and chasey. I'll be nice and give him a B tier. Rex. How do I describe you? They're like an evil Yoshi that never appeared again. These enemies required not one, but 2 jumps to kill it. Mario was evolving at this time, alright? B tier. Rip Van Fish. Easy A tier because of the name. We have the Spike Top, a Fuzzy Beetle with the spike. What else do you want me to say? You want me to talk about what they do in the game or something? Gross. Well, they're undefeatable without special powers. You make me want to say C tier. Alright, Sumo Brother. I'm giving an A tier. They poop out Thunderbolts. I mean, what else do you want out of a Mario enemy? You have too high of standards. Super Koopa. Koopas, but Super, they fly. Hey, Super is a good enemy. They hang out on the ceiling, wait for you to approach their path, and then they swoop. They're a decent mix between easy to kill, but actually challenging at the same time. I'll give them an A tier. The win, a small flump. That's actually kind of funny. A tier. Torpedo Ted. I hate these guys. They move in such a way that makes it impossible to kill them. B tier. You can contact my lawyer if you disagree. Urchin. This is like the least creative enemy we've had so far. See, finally we end on one final S tier enemy, the Wiggler. I think this is one of the best Mario enemies of all time, despite people punching their walls when he was added to Mario Kart 7. In terms of bosses, there's not many new ones. This is because the Koopalings appear yet again. I mean, I could rank them harshly and have people try to kill me twice in one video. The only new boss we're ranking here is the Reznor. a fire-breathing rhino that sits in groups of 4s. It's sort of memorable, but design-wise it's a bit boring, and also got reused a few times in the new Super Mario Bros. Games, so I'm barely putting it in B tier.
Super Mario Land 2 is another Game Boy side-scroller, and this game deviates quite far from the original formula of Mario. Meaning, you have a bunch of enemies that I have nothing to say about again. I'm trying my best, I'm sorry.
And, I'm not even going to talk about this one. Aqua Goomba. Actually, a pretty novel idea. I approve. It's an underwater Goomba. A tier. Battle tier. What is this? A Heracross? C. B. B tier. B fly. B tier. Big B. B. They're B's I literally have to do it. Bureau. What the hell is this? D. Birdfish. Science has gone too far. We need to reverse time. D. Bamu Bamu. A piggy bank that shoots cannons. I mean, come on. That's easily an A tier. Bopping Toadie. Can you believe Nintendo is stealing characters from Atari games? B is fair. Shikantu. You know, that's what I'm talking about with creativity. But it has spikes. Wow, D tier, yeah. The Collector. No one likes to be teased. F tier. The Kanto. An ant with a cannon on its head. You gotta love all these ant varieties. D tier. Don Don. This is a boring bird. Whatever, this is average. C. Fireball Boy. You know what, that's actually kind of funny. B. Floating Face. Why? D tier. Ghost Goombas. I got the ghost part of their body is brown. B. Garanto. G. Another ant. Honebot. You know, we've seen this type of enemy before, I'm pretty sure, just with a different name. I'll give it a C. Jack in the Box. Why are all the enemies in this game so goddamn creepy? Why does it have a balding old man's hair? C tier. Kara. Seriously. Just F tier. Hidokato. Well, they ran out of original enemies to make up, so they made a human. C. Oh, and a vampire named Kuro Kiora. You know, I kind of like this one a bit more. B. Kyororo. C. Next up is Kyantobo, a generic, boring dragonfly. D. I actually kind of like the Nazgul. It's sort of like Jason X from Friday the 13th, and that's a pretty cute, albeit surprising reference for Mario. I'll give him an A. Mini Kira. You know we have the swoopers now, right guys? C. Moofish. It's a moofish. It's a goddamn cow. S tier. Number 48. I like the name and I do have a soft spot for robots, so I think it's a cute edit. Hey, Noku Bombette. They're kind of like the bomb Koopas from Mario Land 2, which I guess was the idea, since believe it or not, these games are indeed related. B tier. Piku. What do you possibly want me to say about this thing? Poro, a spaceship enemy. I like how the neck is a bolt. A tier. Ragumo, a mole with a drill for a beak. B tier. Shark. The name is generic, the idea is generic, but they have boxing gloves, and that's not generic. That's cute. A. Skeleton Beat. You know the drill by now. Spiky the Hedgehog. I'm giving it an A because even though I don't think they meant this, the art makes it look like a Sonic parody asking for drugs. Tamara. It's a dotted ball sack that shoots. Yes, Tozenbo, another Urchin thing. Don't touch it, it might be spiky. C. Mara. At first glance, you might not know what it is, but this is a B, so say it with me, everyone. 1, 2, 3, C tier. Tricked you. You know Bow-O. How many of these exist by now? C. Alright, time for the big boy bosses now. Firstly is Big Bird. I'll give it a B tier, nothing special, but it's fine. There's the Sewer Rat, nothing mind-blowing, and a bit generic. C. Witch. Is that Waluigi? Whatever, C. We have the 3 little pigs. Okay, they really just wanted to get sued somewhere while making this game, didn't they? This boss is hard as hell, and was personally one of the areas I struggled most with when I played this game. It is fair challenge though, so B. Octopus. Holy crap, the father of artillery. B tier. And of course, last but not least, as he's the most important character in the goddamn game, we have Wario, another one of those Mario characters that spawned like 100 other games. Wario is evil Mario, and it's not going to be sort of a heavier guy stereotype. In some games, his whole personality is he likes foods and farts, which makes it harder for me to say he's some S-tier character, since I don't really like that sort of humor personally. I think an A tier is quite justified here.
Alright, well, we're done with the 2D era of Mario, so let's jump to the first Mario game that was in 3D. Mario Clash on Virtual Boy. It is in 3D.
If you're mad at me for that joke, don't worry, you won't be here too long. For those unaware, the Virtual Boy is Nintendo's first swing at virtual reality. First of like 2. The clunky console ultimately was way too inconvenient to use though, and the market never caught on at the time. Everyone seems to forget that a Mario game technically did release for the console, and this was none other than Mario's Clash. a three-dimensional sort of take on the arcade Mario Brothers. But most notably, it gave us two new enemies. Thorny, a spikier buff, C, and Snake, boring and uncreative, F, and that's all I have to say about Mario's Clash. That was sadly anticlimactic.
Why are you looking through the couch? I heard you could add 5 boneless wings to a burger for just $1 at Applebee's, and I swear I dropped a quarter in here. You can get 5 boneless wings for only $1 at Applebee's? I'll be right back.
Limited time. Price and participation may vary. Limit 1 per order. Restrictions apply.
Super Mario 64, a game that no one's ever talked about on YouTube before.
This game actually introduces us to a lot less enemies than the previous games. Still a lot, but a lot less. Let's start with Amp, a circle with shocks around them that toast Mario to a crisp. They always seem to get you at the worst possible moment, so C. New to Mario 64 are the bullies that push you off the stage, most notably appearing in Evil Lava Land. These enemies were introduced so you'd actually have a reason to master Mario's combat mechanics. I think an A tier is fair here. Chuck ya, these guys suck. Did anyone else not know you could pick them up and throw them as a kid, or was I just dumb?
I'd answer that.
They're not particularly noteworthy or memorable, and just annoying, so I'm going with D for these guys. I did not know they had faces when I played this game. These guys are irritating, and literally were only placed on levels to make your life miserable. C tier. Moving to shifting stand in for a bit, Grindel. Grindel? Grindel would make more sense. Basically, they're thwomps with a distinguished stomping pattern. In terms of platforming, especially in 3D, actually a pretty novel mechanic. I'll give them an A for that. Evo! Walk on their step, and they throw you. We have the Klepto. These predator birds steal your head, which can be a bit tilting, but I do enjoy the realism this provides to the game. So despite being irritating, I will give a B here. Mad Piano. I missed on this guy. Scrap of metal. He did provide trauma to millions of kids by chomping you up in the air, but I mean, he did fulfill the purpose Nintendo sought out to create. I guess I have to give it an A. I don't mind the Manta Ray too much in this game specifically, but in Mario Galaxy, it led to a few motion control levels that I personally found really aggravating. So I think I gotta break the 11th commandment and give it a C. The money bags are basically coins that you later realize aren't coins. You bump into them and cry, but if you catch up and grab them, you make bank and can retire at the age of 27. 18. Moving bar, just great, a rock with eyes on it. It shouldn't even be an enemy, but you know, if I didn't put this, someone out there would be like, oh, you forgot the moving bar, the best at D. Next up, we have Mr. Blizzard, a snowman who literally cannot move, but throws snowballs at you nonetheless. It's cute and somewhat unique. B. Mr. Eye. It's a literal eyeball. That's disgusting. Scuttlebug. While the newer iterations of this enemy are sort of boring, I'm giving it an A purely because I really love the marble texture it had in Mario 64. Skeeter. These are certainly water spiders, alright. In Mario Sunshine, they can be used as a platform in the upper hills, so I'll give them a B. Spindel. They're basically the same sort of thing as the Grindel, but cylindrical. I'll also give it an A too. Spindrift. Now this is a fun enemy. They're similar to any other Mario enemy, you jump on them.
Wow, really?
But this time, upon a bounce, Mario gets a floaty jump that goes quite high, with a slow descent. It's a ton of fun. They really had no lasting legacy in the franchise, so I won't put it higher than an A. Sushi. They're sharks. Fun fact, if you eat too much shark, you can get mercury poisoning, so F tier for the false information. Hotspots. Everyone cried because of this enemy at some point as a kid. Like the Spindels and the Grindels, it's a very smart introduction to a 3D game. This time around, you have to slowly inch your way around the enemy and memorize which side of it has the hole you can be safe in. A tier. Nagi. Horrifying. I'm giving it a D tier. Finally, we have the Womp. Another series staple. It's a Thwomp, but it evolved to have legs. Charles Darwin is panicking in his grave right now. I'll give him an A. In terms of allies, we do have a few new ones. Let's start this off with Lakitu Pros. This is literally a Lakitu. Why did Nintendo lie? I think it's a cute idea to explain why Mario has a camera. Not needed really, but for the time, it's appreciable nonetheless. A. We also have the Bob-omb Buddies. These guys are basically just pink bombs, but they are more of your friend now. They open cannons who look beat in game without it. B tier. There's Hoot, an owl that drops you into a cage. I don't know if I'm the only one who struggled with this, but I felt like the controls were way too floaty. I'll give it a C. Here we have penguins.
I think everyone has a little bit of guilt for throwing that little baby penguin off the cliff. And if you don't, you're a sociopath. I just died in this year.
I'll give him an A. Snowman. He's kind of generic. I don't know, he doesn't say or do that much, only being featured in one race level. That can be sort of frustrating. I'm giving a C, just because it's weird he doesn't really move his mouth or anything. He doesn't feel like a character as much as an inanimate object that talks to you. Mips the rabbit. He looks like he hates his life. They're annoying to chase in my opinion, like trying to grab butter that fell in the shower. B tier. We have Dory, who I really like, because in this game they don't even look like a Mario character. They're a classic though, I gotta go A tier. Time for possibly the biggest enemy in the franchise so far. The big snowman from Snowman's Land. Yes, he does actually talk. I never knew how to get past him as a kid, so am I biased when I say I'm giving a D tier?
Biased? In my own video? No, it couldn't be.
Finally, we have the Yukiki, easy F tier. They steal a star and run around, and you know, it's actually really hard to catch them sometimes. Well, all we have left are the bosses. There's Big Babam, which on the surface might just seem like a size variant, but he'd later be named King Babam and became a relevant character in the franchise. He even has facial hair now. This fight is the quintessential first boss in a Mario game. I think he's an easy S tier. One of the best bosses in the entire franchise. Swamp King, I will give an A, but he never really had nowhere near the same impact in my opinion. Rock, 2 pairs of hands with eyes. Points for creativity, I guess. B tier. Lastly, we have the Chill Bully. I don't actually think there's much of a difference between this and the regular bully, to be honest. I'm giving it a D tier purely for the laziness. This was amended in Super Mario 64 DS, kind of, because it turned it into a unique character named Chief Chili. That mustache. Hey, you see how easy it is to please us, Nintendo? It's not. We're not asking for that much. Staying in line with the idea is also the Goomba King, or Goombas as some call it. Technically, he was in the first Paper Mario game, being a very rare reverse situation. I'll give him an A tier, because again, yeah, mustache, no.
Super Mario Sunshine is probably the weirdest game in the franchise to date. I love it. And something that makes this game special is all the unique species they brought to this game. All the different types of Piantas and individual characters. Oh god.
Big Daddy, you see? His name's sexual and the bloopers can kill you when he has no permit. And in Pianta, get the hell out of there, dude, and take a bath. D, Captain, he stands around and does nothing to fix Rico Harbor. C, great guy, he hoards shines for the government, so... And Doop Doop Sisters, they're jamming, and they're just straight jamming. A, hotel manager, he doesn't pay us, so that makes us do everything. He's pink, nothing wrong with pink, but it's silly for a Pianta. D tier. Isle Delfino Police. F, they falsely accuse us, arrest us, and give us no chance to defend ourselves. Pianta Judge. F, Pianta Prosecutor. F, jerks. Fire Pianta is stupid, there's water right there, he's a buffoon. A, Pianta Mayor. Put a shirt on, you old hippie. D, the Jugsters. Everyone hates her mission, dude. F, Sunglasses Guy. I mean, come on, he gives you sunglasses. A tier. Durian Fruit Lady. Her mission sucks. F, Banana Fruit Lady. The bananas are right there. F, Pineapple Fruit Lady. Why is your basket up so high? How do you even grab those? F, Coconut Fruit Lady. How the hell are you in this predicament? D, because I kind of feel bad, honestly. The Noki playing a trio? I don't know. A, they're trying their best. Noki Elder, he misleads you for like 8 missions, so he's a hack, and his grandson is a grandson of a hack, so you both get D. Dark Director gives us a fun mission, so A.
Yeah, I could have done the whole video like that, probably.
Other friends on the island include Great Sunflower, who will give an A tier. Sunflower Kid gets an A. Il Piantissimo, one of the most memorable characters in Isle Delfino, requiring the player to race into a McDonald's straw. I'll give an S tier. This game also introduces us to Toadstool, who would become a recurring character at this point in the franchise, boosting Mario Party 7 and Double Dash, and then basically dying with the GameCube and DS era.
He was old.
I give him an S tier. And of course, we have to discuss Flood. This might be controversial, but I'm giving Flood an S tier. I feel like Flood adds so much extra movement potential to the game and makes Mario Sunshine one of the most in-depth Mario games control-wise to this day. The tool can make a few levels cheap, sure, but overall I think it makes Mario Sunshine a quite unique experience. We also have the raccoons. I like how they look like gummy bears, and this small guy just chilling here always makes me laugh. It's funny, A tier, I like it. The bloopers that Big Daddy gives us, these bloopers that we get from someone, C tier. Green ones are really the only ones that control well in any sort of way. The rest piss me off, and it doesn't help that they're instant-death. Birds are trash, you have to spray them 3 times in order to get the collectible. F tier. On to the enemies. First we have the Cataquacks. They started in Super Mario Sunshine as more of a standard enemy, flinging you up into the air because screw you, but they evolved throughout the franchise to be more puzzle and platform oriented. I think this versatility makes me move them from a B tier to at least an A tier. Chain Chomplets. They're little babies. You grab them by the tail and fling them into the water. Their physics are super inconsistent, so I would say they deserve a C tier. Cuckoo, good name. They poop goop. Electric Koopas are actually novel enemies. They shoot an electric shell at you, which gives you a window to spray them, which kills them. Since this works towards actually being a smart game mechanic that benefits from Flood, I'll give it an A tier. Electro Koopa King, he's sleepy. A. Jumping Blooper. I need to bleach my eyes. You ever see one of those Pixar movie clones? It's kind of like that. See, lava cheap Jeeps. Okay, that's just metal, C tier. I'm giving the points an F tier. They were originally designed to just be used once in the game to wake up Petey, but then just cling on to you when actually trying to fight him. Pokeyhead. This barely counts as an enemy in my opinion. It's a disembodied type of Pokey. Fine, whatever, B tier. CP Pods are basically Pokeyheads that hide in the ground and shoot poop. I'm giving a C. Sleepy Boo. You know, why do the enemies in Sunshine look so weird and different? I like it, but like, why? A Smolder and Stew. Watch out, it's the Smolder and Stew. I'm giving it an A. These are, of course, based off of the Stroll and Stew, the substitute for Goombas in this game. A Snooze-a-Koopa. These things, I hate them, I hate them, I hate them, I hate them, I hate them. They're not fun to defeat ever. Swoop and Stew. The Goomies. Goobles. Not what? Swoop and Stews. It's like the worst. That's like the worst name ever. A Wind Spirit. These enemies have a huge tendency to just ruin your day, as they can hit you out of nowhere and make you fall down multiple stories. Finally, we have the Winged Throw and Stew, or better known as platforms. Beat you. Then there's the Swipe and Stew, who steals Mario's hat, but not permanently, which kind of loses the charm of the whole Klepto idea from Mario 64. So I'm giving a C tier. On to the bosses. We have the Polluted Piranhas, which I'm giving a C because they reuse this fight like 5 times and it gets really repetitive. A classic boss that spawned in this game, though, was Petey Piranha. He appeared in so many spin-offs from here, and even Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Look at this thing. What the hell is this? I mean, S tier. The Cooper Loop barely made a dent in this franchise. To be fair, he went on to be a mini-boss in Paper Mario and some sports games. B. Mecha Bowser. If you count him as a character despite just being machinery, is one of the high points of Super Mario Sunshine. I'll give him an A. There's the Ganimal who throws bombs at you. He has a green hat. I like the green hat. A. There's Phantom Manta, which in my opinion might be the best fight in Super Mario Sunshine. I'm giving it an S tier. King Boo, technically Boss Boo or Big Boo. I think King Boo is a good boss, a great secondary villain for the franchise, and the one who ends up torturing Luigi later on in Luigi's Mansion games. I'll just give him a B tier. Flangellos, I used to call them the Waluigi birds as a kid. A. Deal. This fight sucks. Absolutely sucks. I have died many times to it. It's just confusing and long and controls poorly.
Easy up, as in F you, Eel. I hate you.
Finally, we have 2 more villains. Firstly is Shadow Mario, the reason we even get accused in the first place, because we totally look like that. I hate this boss because the structure hurts Super Mario Sunshine as a game in my opinion. You have to do 7 missions of defeating Shadow Mario, which takes away from the decisions you can make in Mario 64 of getting to a star total, C tier. The real mastermind behind Shadow Mario is later revealed to be Bowser Jr. I think this is a cool villain, and he ended up being a great right-hand man to Bowser, especially in the spin-off, and would continue to be a prominent force in the mainline Mario games, S tier. Balloon Boo is getting an F because the internet has scarred me, and that's all I'm gonna say. Lockhopper, okay, this is cute, love it. A. We have the Bruiser. These things always terrified me. They at a very minimum can break bricks that you normally can't. They always gave me some anxiety as a kid, so C. Crowbers are fairly generic. I can at least respect the pun, but the design is so generic that it's just gonna average out to a B. Deep Cheats, okay, pun, funny, but it's also a unique enemy. Cheap Cheats that directly go after you instead of just existing. I can at least give them a B. Kabam, like kaboom. Come on. Snailicle. Gross. Hate the name. Hate the design. Nintendo, you should be ashamed of yourselves. All of you. D. Snow Spike. I may not have been a huge fan of the original Spike, but if you put a little hat and gloves on anything, it just moves it up to a B. Spike Bass. What happened to the enemy design in the new Super Mario Brothers series? Like, this is just a horrifying. It's just a D. Splunket. Alright, I love these little pumpkin Goomba guys. I don't know. A. Easy. Squiggler, a baby Wiggler? It's so cute. S tier. Well, that's most of the enemies, actually. For a game entitled New Super Mario Brothers, there's really not a lot of new. They do have 2 bosses left, though. Firstly is the Mummy Pokey, and I love the idea of this. It's a great way to cap off a Desert World. A tier. Cheap Skipper. Not a fan of this one. I feel like we've gotten so many big, cheap designs, and now it's just getting old. C tier. There's Monty Tank, a Monty Mole, and a tank that shoots bob-ombs. A little inspired. B. Lag of Thunder. A Lagartine that shoots thunder with a storm cloud, and that's cool as hell. I'm giving it an A tier. Finally, to top off the game, we have the Dry Bowser. You can argue that it's a clone, and I don't disagree. But if we count Dry Bones, we do have to count Dry Bowser, or else we've got some problems on our hands. The only problem is he never really had dialogue or any important role in the game. He's always just there. So I think that means I can't put him in S tier. I'll settle for A.
Ah, that wasn't so bad. Now let's do Mario Galaxy.
Super Mario Galaxy!
Super Mario Galaxy, taking place in space, duh, obviously, means that a ton of new species were introduced here, including boards that can talk. Gilboard teaches an obvious mechanic of wall jumping. C, Billboard is by far the funniest pun. S tier, Billboard, okay, it's not really that funny, but I like the name Phil. A, Gilboard, it just doesn't have that same ring to it in my opinion.
Unbelievable.
C, on to our main characters. Rosalina, easy S tier in my opinion, and debatably the best Mario princess. She has an amazing backstory, a great design, and commands a ship. I'm giving the Luma that travels with us a C. I like the spin mechanic, but it was annoying to me in the first game to always have to shake my wrist instead of it just being assigned to a button or having an option for it. The Lumas as a species though, I'll give an A. Polari, now that is a cool design. He predicted the Wii U. A. Hungry Luma. I feel bad for these guys. You just sit here and overfeed them to literal death. I'll give them an A only out of pity. Luma Lee gets an F. I'm not buying into your capitalist bullshit and upcharged prices. Comet Tico. I like the design and he reveals new missions to us, which means more gameplay, and since this game is good, that's good. A. Super Mario Galaxy also introduced us to the Toad Brigade. Leading this group of dorks, of course, is Captain Toad, who would start his own game a few years later. A damn good game at that. S tier. Male Toad. Alright, where's my 2010s nostalgia gamers who remember when Chugga Conroy brought up a good point? This little guy can carry like 25 1-ups, but not drag Princess Peach out of Bowser's Castle. F tier. I mean, he's working with the man. Star Bunnies. That's cute, although chasing them sucks. So A, the Honeybees. B, Queen Bee. B, Ray's eyes remind me of the Microsoft paper clip thing. Creeps me out. C tier. Coach. He presides over water levels in an already really slow game. D tier. Panguro only gets a C tier because he's old and I feel bad. Penguin Racers. Look at that smug face. D tier. Guillermo's I'm putting an F tier because he presides over quite possibly the worst Mario level in history. Throwing bombs that take like 15 seconds to go off. It's all his fault because just give me like 3 more seconds. Spooky Speedster. He's a boo with a face mask and makes you race through meat. D tier. Okay? Guppy. Oh my god. Get it away from me. Put it in D tier. That's with Mario and Luigi. I don't know if they count the character, but I'll put both of them in B tier for the design alone. That, it's not Swooper, it's technically new. C tier. Bomber. Now this is a cool enemy. They are boos that you can grab, swing around, and upon impact will explode. S tier enemy in my opinion. Bonefin. Basically a dry bones version of a shark. Like, no, B. Plant B. Literally a clone of the Pearly Clam Clan. Can you believe these guys? C tier. Cluck Boom. Does this look like a Sonic enemy to anyone? B. Crabber. Actually, a well-designed enemy using strategic shield parries to block your spins that have you attack them. Leave. Alright, like enough. B. Plant B. Literally a clone of the Pearly Clam Clan. Can you believe these guys? C tier. Cluck Boom. Does this look like a Sonic enemy to anyone? B. Crabber. Actually, a well-designed enemy using strategic shield parries to block your spins that have you attack them in a more thought-out way. Toomba. Basically the Goombas of this game, and there's really nothing more to say. A. Flip Bug. Another well-designed enemy, requiring not only a spin, but a jump. These madmen. A tier. Ring Gills. Eels with giant eyes. Okay, that's gross. F. Goom Beetles. Well, you can't jump on these guys, so now you just spin. A for trying to make the gameplay at least a bit different. Ground Urchin. The only way to defeat these enemies is by fireballs. B tier. Ice Bats. They're bats. Again, not super. Bats made of ice. B. With a little bird. Tiny little ice cubes with faces on them. We've seen this enemy before. B. Same thoughts for the little cinder. Jammo War. I don't even remember these things in my multiple playthroughs, to be honest. I guess I'm giving a C tier because they left 0 impact on me. Jammy Fish. These are fine. Not too memorable either, but it's kind of surprising Mario did not have a jellyfish enemy until this game. B. Mandibug. Gee, I wonder how you're supposed to attack these guys. B. Mikey Mines. Okay, why did you name it Mike? It's funny, but why? B tier. Monty. They remind me of the Charmin Ultra Soft Bears, so C. If you don't like that, I'll put you in C tier too. Octo Guys. Rock Shooting Goombas. That is A tier. Pokey Plants. It's a Pokey. I don't know why this is a different species. C. Pumpkinhead Goombas. Want to work better? B tier. Rock Toe. S tier because they are based off of Octoroks from Zelda, and that's cool. Sentry Beam. Robot enemies that fire lasers. A tier. Sentry Garage. It's a platform. C. Slurple. Prick you. C. Spiky Top Man. Oh, you think that Spike makes you so cool? B tier. Spiny Piranha Plant. I actually like these guys a lot. The spines on their sides mean you need to be pretty strategic to take them out, but they still only require a jump or a spin. A tier. Spoing. Little tiny spiders that bounce. Funny name. B. Apparently if these hang from silk, they're a whole new enemy named the Sprangler. C. Spring. It barely counts as in my opinion. They did the classic Nintendo move of put eyes on it. D tier. Spring Top Man, a pretty novel enemy. B tier. Spring Ball. They're platforms. C, top mini. They can't kill you and are cute. So A, Trex, they ripped off money bags. Ooh, but it's a new universe, so new species. C, Twister, tornadoes with eyes that fling you upwards. But the name is fun to say. B, Undergrunt, another Charmin Ultra Sub looking ass. Ooh, but he's underground now. I don't care. C, now we got a plethora of bosses, because of course we do. Dino Piranha, a pretty good first fight. I would even say close to as strong as King Babam was from Mario 64. I'll give it an A. King Caliente is getting an S tier. This is one of the best bosses of the entire series. It's basically playing Dennis with a giant octopus. Bugaboo. I don't like this boss. You have to ground on them, but they often are tilted at a particular angle. C. The Mecha Leg is pretty cool. The star requires Mario to climb a big machine, making it a pretty fun star, although the top of the head can be a bit annoying. I'll give it an A tier. Kamilla's a nice boss. I like when they make a distinct, unique character out of a regular enemy. A. Tarantox. It's gross and the fight's annoying. C. Top Maniac. They spin, you gotta jump, and then you fry them alive. B. Poltergeist. Now this is a cool boss. This is where you use the Boo Bomb we talked about earlier. This is an amazing adrenaline booster and a good star. I'll give them an S. Major Burrows. Stop doing this. Baron Burr.
Golden Ear, shut up.
More difficult Little Bird, nothing offensive or grand either way. B. Undergrunt Gunner. B. Mecha Bowser, another giant boss that's essentially a platforming challenge. It's not as cool as the one from Sunshine in my opinion, so C. Kingfin. Okay, that is kinda cool. A tier. And finally, Fiery Dino Piranha. Same as the first one, just a tighter window to attack. I don't know, A. The only new, no they aren't new, the only new friendly character is Jumbo Ray. Platforms we can stand on, and I feel like we've seen this 5 times by now. C. Enemy-wise and boss-wise, there aren't that many new characters here. And for the bosses, they brought back the Koopalings again. So we really won't be spending too much time with this game. New to the game, we do have the Ramball. I actually really like these guys. They move by extending their legs, giving a brief window to attack the ball. A. Bullbird. Yeah, great. Let's add a light mechanic to underwater sections. Make them worse. D. Sam Brown with the jelly beams. Hooligan? Okay, that's kind of funny. S. Eek Cheap. B. Who? Cloud enemies that obscure the map. Nothing too special in terms of defeating them. B tier. Hucket Crab? I know where they can huck it. C. Ice Bro. By now, the Fire and Hammer Bros are nowhere near as difficult in the modern games. And so, because it was introduced in an era where they weren't as threatening, I'll give them a higher tier than the others, being B. Brickley Goomba. What are you doing in there, little guy? Not a bad idea, making Goomba a bit more of a threat than usual.
Yeah, it's 2 out of 10 difficulty instead of 1 out of 10.
A tier. River Piranha. They spend their whole life's purpose of blowing spike balls in the air, and that's all they do. B tier. Scaredy Rat. Ugly, but literally the name alone is S tier. Stalking Piranha Plant. Oh my god, another Piranha Plant with legs. A tier. Finally, we have the Stone Spike. I'm sorry for this section. The enemies in this game are just so uncreative, and I have nothing to say about almost any of them. I don't know. C. It's another spike. Super Mario Galaxy 2. Some people love it, some people love it slightly less than Mario Galaxy 1. I mean, can you blame them? It has Lubba. Easy F tier. There's also now the Ghost Star Luma. This one's a mixed bag. I don't hate the co-op mode, but it would have been nice to have a legitimate second player tagging along, so I'm putting this in C. So this next ranking I might get hate for. I'm putting Pleasure in an F tier. I hate these motion controls, and they put me through genuine pain as a kid. It just never worked for me. Tip Network. I hate this trend of, oh, we need to make every game easier. Screw learning it by yourself. D tier. The Chimp. I do not like this design, and his minigames suck. C. Jibberjays. Bad control apologists. My favorite type of person on the internet. F. I do like the Whittles. That's a really good idea for a side species, and maybe a Pikmin even. A tier. Choppa, as in they choppa you alive if you go near them. B. Cosmic Clone. The idea of this enemy is that they chase you in waves and copy your movement, which is actually a really novel challenge for a lot of levels, so I'm putting it in an S tier. I'm putting whatever the hell this is in B. Elite Octo Goomba. What makes them elite? I don't know. They're green, but elitists are bad. F. Fizzlet. A floating cavity. D. Black Tack. Actually a good enemy. They have a spike on their head, so if you linger too long underneath the shadow, you'll be impaled. A tier. Flomp. So the idea is, let's take Flomps, make the name unfunny, and the face bad. D. Gummit. They don't do anything, they just give you points. B. Spiky Gummit. They do have a spike. B. Oming Chomp. Chain chomps with the versatility of a bullet bill. A tier. Kleptoad. They steal stuff, and that's a funny name because Kleptoad. Oh wait, that's been done before. B. Magmarg. Okay, A, magma. These are smaller than the Magmar, so A, Mattermouth. They eat the floor. You know, for the whole galaxy concept, it works pretty well. A, Octoboo. You know, maybe a bit useless conceptually, but a neat design. A tier. Pinhead. Wow, another inanimate object with a face on it. It's getting old. D, Prickly Piranha Plant. A step further than the Spiny Piranha Plant. There is a difference. A good enemy, though, requiring Mario to spin a plant to kill him. A, Pup Dozer. Seriously, it's not bad in concept, but what in the hell is this design? C, Romp. Aw, they're so happy. They insta-kill you. B, Sneech. Stop making these enemies. It's getting a bit weird, okay? C, Snoodle. Okay, I like the name. B, Spindle Bolts. They don't have eyes, but they try to kill Mario anyways. F, Pinecone. One of the most adorable Mario enemies. I like it. A, Swap Hoppers. These are sort of similar to the Flap Tech, except their gaming is they move with the anti-gravity switches. Also, A, Trap Dragon. Seemingly normal flowers that trap Mario. How can you even tell? That's just a cheap shot. D, Twirling. They certainly do twirl. We can't sue Nintendo for lying. B tier. Wimp. We've already had an enemy concept like this. The Wimp. But I guess no one cares about continuity. B, Baby Piranha. It's a baby piranha, and it feels kind of mean killing it. I don't know, I don't like this. C, Dinglackadoo. I guess no Super Mario Brothers just never happened. C, we have the Digleg, actually a really clever boss, requiring mastering timing on the other side of a planet with the drill power-up. S, Gobblegut is one of Galaxy 2's most memorable bosses, easily. I'm giving this an A tier and not S because I think it's a bit unfairly difficult, although that's not bad when this game is generally easy. Rolodillo. Get it? It rolls. When you didn't get it, don't lie to me, I had to explain it. B, Zorbetti. How can you have something that looks both so evil and cutesy at the same time? I like it. A, Mega Hammer. You have to grab bullet bills with Yoshi and buy Rebecca. A, Landozer. This is in the category of I didn't remember this existed until this video. C, Squizzard. I feel violated just looking at this. D tier. Prince Picante. This is definitely supposed to be a reference to King Caliente and a good remix of that boss fight. S tier.
Super Mario 3D Land! You know, the internet kind of seems to hate this game now. I still like it.
Bidybud. It's certainly a ladybug enemy. It's a Goomba. This is a Goomba with a fresh coat of paint on it. C, Block-a-Block. I like enemies like this. The weird mutations of the Mushroom Kingdom. A tier. Coin Copper. Oh yeah, we needed a third Moneybag species. F, Draglet. Little dragons that shoot fire. A, Flophoppers, similar to the Galaxy enemy. B, Inky Piranha Plant. They shoot ink at your screen like a blooper from Mario Kart. You're paying for that. B tier. Morty Mole. What makes this different than the Monty Moles? D tier. Parabidybud. F, Peepa. How many times are you guys gonna copy an enemy you already have? D, Pronto. It says a lot that this is one of the best enemies in the game so far. B, Sandmarg. They're like fire things, but with sand. You're killing it, guys. C, Spiked Eel. An eel with spikes on it. Great, 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 great. F, Stingbite. B, Wallop. A wall that mimics your moves. Kind of a cute enemy, better than all this other trash. B, the only new boss we have in this game is Pom Pom, which would be fine if fought once, but like Boom Boom, they bring her back every other world, so D.
I should note I haven't played it since I was 11.
New Super Mario Bros. 2 only introduces us to the following. We have Bone Piranha Plant and Bone Goomba, which I like the dry bone stuff as we've established, so I'll give them A tier. We have the Behemoth, which, you know, I shouldn't count this because of the size variation rule, but fine, B, and that's it.
Sorry, the enemies are getting really freaking boring right now.
The last of the new Super Mario Bros. Games and a mediocre one to go out on. There are at least the Baby Yoshis. There's the Balloon Baby Yoshi, who turns into a balloon. A, Bubble Baby Yoshis are basically just a power-up that shoots bubbles. Like, I can't see why they couldn't have just made this a separate suit. God forbid, there's already a million of them. C, and the Glowing Baby Yoshis are super gimmicky and only useful in a few levels. F, see, we're not around right now. New to this game enemy-wise are the Dragon Eel. Despite the uninspired name, I think an enemy that takes up half the screen, requiring you to pivot around it, is a pretty clever idea from a game design perspective. A, Flipbrus. They are walruses who throw snow. Why not just use snow spikes? D, Goombras. Why? F tier. Rolls. Glomps that roll. I wonder if the whole office at Nintendo is just cackling when they make another one of these for the millionth time. B. Nice Piranha plants, and these are starting to get a bit old. B tier. Mechachomp, and that's just cool. I know it's been kind of done before, but it's cool. A. Nabbit, don't remind me it's been 11 years since this guy debuted in the series. He steals items, requiring the Blairs to chase him down, and eventually would become playable in New Super Luigi U and various spin-offs. He's a fan favorite, although a bit forced and boring. I'll give him a B. Targeting Ted, they're just a torpedo Ted. C. And last and probably least, the Waddle Wings, only added because it matched the generic power-up this game was released with. C. New Super Mario Bros. U also lets you play as your Mii's in the bonus mode. I don't know, should this count? Well, this video is long enough as is, so screw it. Hey, we also need to point out this game was released in 2019 for the Nintendo Switch, because of course it was. This would introduce us to Toadette, who technically appeared first in Odyssey, but I'm not doing a separate section for this game alone, it's a lousy Wii U port. As a whole, Toadette is a classic character, dating back to many early spin-offs before making it into some of the later eras of the mainline Mario series. She was a great character in Paper Mario's 1000-Year Door, you know, one of those that appears every few chapters, but becomes memorable as a result. I'll give her an A tier. I can't say the same thing about Peachette. I'm giving her an F tier. Because of what this did to the internet, it was horrifying, and I have not recovered. As usual, we'll start with the allied characters. Of course, we have the Sprixies, because Peach can't get kidnapped, so someone else had to be in that position. God forbid they branch out the pot in any conceivable way. There's also Plessie, a fun mechanic for on-rails and water levels that works great in single player, and is complete trash in multiplayer. B. Alright, time to our onslaught of generic Mario enemies that I have to try to figure out anything to say about, and I should have called this the Mario enemy ranking video, I swear to God. Ant Trooper, they are basically platforms. They're super memorable when you consider the world they're in, though. A tier. Block Stepper. I respect how easily they move in sync with each other. I like them in the fact there's not even lore or any future appearance. They're just random dudes who appeared in one game. A. Lurker, Roast, C tier, Roller. One of those enemies that are really just more of a mechanic, used in this case to press down switches. A decent early game idea, nothing offensive. B. Shamarg. I like this ARG sense of enemies. It's the same sort of deal as the other lava ones. B tier. Conqueror. Nothing mind-blowing, but actually a damn clever enemy, at least for early game. A tier. Blocker. I swear to God, I played this game 5 times and I didn't even know what this was. D tier. Puzzler. Less so enemies and more of an obstacle on the Swish roller coaster levels. B tier. And the Hop Chop, another one of those millions of enemies that you use as a platform. C tier. Horned Ant Trooper is another Ant Trooper, but probably don't use them as platforms or you'll, die. B tier. Inner Tube Goomba. I mean, come on. Easy S tier. He's just vibing. Madpole. A alone for the name, don't care about the rest. Barebones is S. How did we go like 30 years without this existing? The Piranha Creeper isn't some genius enemy or anything, but I like these ones. Basically, their vines reach out super long, so you have to perform a series of jumps on the head to make them hide into their hole. Die. I've seen worse. A tier. Rammerheads. These make me uncomfortable. D. Then needs to stop making cute variations of the Goomba, like the skating Goomba. It's too cute and too easy of an S tier for me. Don't be mean, he has a shoe. The Skip Squeak reminds me too much of that horrible first trailer we got for this game. D. Now, spiny Skip Squeak, now we're talking. C. I like the idea of the snow pokey, and it's cute that they have a little bucket on their head. A tier. Splorch. Gross, but a good enemy idea nonetheless. B tier. Splounder. They only exist to hurt Plessie, so they get an F tier. Typhoon. I've seen the summer before. C. Walleye. I've seen the summer before. D. Now, unlike the Mario games of this era, there are actually some unique bosses. 6. It's progress, okay? Histocrat. This boss requires you to climb up the smaller goons to hit the top of them. I like the boss a lot, and it's a good show-off for the cat suit. S. Boss of Roller. Not that engaging, but not the worst fight. Very much a B tier. We have King Kathunk, who's super easy, even showing the player a light of where he'll land, but I think it's fun. I'd also say B tier. Prince Bully. It's funny. Easy, but funny. Motley Boss Blob. A pretty creative boss that has sort of been done in other video games, but not really Mario. One of those break it up and destroy the smaller creatures sort of deal. A tier. Finally, we have Meowser. I don't think the fight against him is anything mind-blowing, and it's still a bit easy, but it was something unique and creative at a time Mario was getting stale. Climbing up a giant tower and ending him up with a giant POW block, so I'll at least give this an A. Despite it releasing in 2021, there's really not a ton to say about Bowser's Fury, so we'll just cover it right now.
The Bowser's Fury in the base game do have a bunch of cat variations of the generic enemy. But do you really want me to sit here and rank basically the same enemy? Do you want me to analyze the cat fur strands? There's someone out there who would. There's definitely people. I regret saying that.
Okay, I'm breaking the rule I just said with the cat little birds. That's hilarious. S. There are kittens. S. There are kittens. Come on. Same with the parents. I gotta do it. It's a law. In terms of new enemies, we have the Disaster Neko, an evil cat, D tier, and Fury Shadow. How many of these clone characters are you gonna do? B. And finally, there's Fury Bowser. That is so goddamn cool. It makes Melee Giga Bowser look like a joke. S tier. So there really isn't that much ground to cover with the Super Mario Maker games, but I do have to cover them. We will not be counting costumes as individual characters. For one, they're costumes, and for two, if we open those floodgates before you know it, we're analyzing and ranking Princess Elise and her impact on the Sonic franchise. Firstly, we have Course Spot, a menu with a face on it. I don't know, I hate the fact that it limits how many courses you can choose. 120 is so few, at least relatively in my opinion. How big the concept of Mario Maker is. C tier, Mario, Pun Alert, S tier, Mr. Eraser. Wow, great name. Oh, seriously, that's the best name ever. S tier, no joke. It's just a great name. Just mind-blowing. S tier. Parakeet let you record your own noises with the Wii U gamepad, which I think is dangerous, and the amount of sheer chaos that's probably introduced is terrifying.
Hey, you're a poopy head. Ouch.
F tier, Sound Frog, get it away from me. D, Undo Dog, it certainly is nice to be able to undo things. A tier, Yamamura, bird with an M on its fur. S tier. In Super Mario Maker 2, we have the World Bot, introduced in Update 3.0, and not at launch for reasons only Nintendo fanboys will try to argue. It saves worlds though, which is a super cool feature. S tier. No more Mario in this game though, but Nina. Is there a pun I'm missing here? Like, is this supposed to be funny? I don't get it. This is worse than objectively every way. F tier. One new enemy, Poison Bubble, C tier. One more game. Let's do this. I'm mentally ready. Starting with the big boys, I love Cappy. He may not be as versatile as Flood, but we get a pretty interesting background in the form of the Cap Kingdom, and this can be even used as a method of co-op play. I think an S tier here is fair. Tiara, there's no pun, 0 to 10. Awful, D tier. I'm putting the Bone Netcher as a whole in B tier. Frogs. They're frogs. They are frogs. Uncle Amiibo. I know, it's a little thing, but it talks. I'm not a big fan of the Amiibo stuff. There's really not a lot of cool functionality with Amiibo in this game, so I'll give it a C tier. Talkatoo. His hints suck, they never help me, and I always ended up using Google F tier. Toasterinans. I love the world they inhabit, so congrats, he made me have fun. S tier. A sheep with a sombrero. S tier, duh. Another capturable enemy is the Moai. Pink sunglasses, really? C. Sphinx makes me feel like I'm back in school. D tier. How does it feel now, teacher?
I'm not projecting at all.
Jaxus. I like the pun, and it's more creative than your average move from point A to point B mechanic. H. I'm sure Glydon and his mechanics are one of those things you just gotta get good at, gamers, but I never got a feel for his controls and they made me mad. F tier. Goombet. A girl Goomba, and I put the first Goomba in A, so we're all about quality here, so A as well. Lock Lady. Sure, why not? A tier. Steam Gardener. You know, I like most robots in the franchise, but I'm just not feeling these ones. I like the world they inhabit, though, so B. New Donkers. Think I'm fine with these guys? I wasn't too big on the concept when they were introduced. I was kind of hoping the humans would be a bunch of Marios walking around. If you treat them as their own distinct species and don't think about how the Super Show messes up this continuity, I can rationalize it. B tier. The Guitarist. There's even a guitar in this song they're playing. D tier. Bassist, are way too underrated. A. The drummer, I like his drum set design. B tier. The trumpeter, I like his trumpet licks in the song. S tier. Javarians, you know, they just copied the Goron NPCs from Majora's Mask, but made it non-unplayable. A. Javarian Elder. B tier. Bubblanians, they're snails in a water world. C tier. Coach, F tier. The volleyball minigame is sheer trash. Nintendog, you know, it's a puppy, so S tier. Bonnet, I love the concept of these little guys, little forks you can fling off of. They fit in so well with the universe, and I do like the Luncheon Kingdom as a whole. So S tier, Poochie, again, puppy, S tier. We have the Astrolates here, which are aliens in Mario. Now, this is super cool. Where was this in Galaxy? A tier. Fight for Us are pretty smart enemies design-wise. They can jump you up if you're not careful, but can also just be used as a platform. A tier. Burbo. They aren't threatening at all and just get demolished by your Cappy. C tier. Chinsho. I'm mad because they're not dry bones. C tier. I really love the Gunshin's mechanics if you grab them. They're genuinely pretty fun, despite having some annoying bosses that you have to use them with. Kamboo. Walking seaweed. D. Listen man, you don't with a mag logo. A tomato. and I don't want them killing me in my sleep, so I'm giving an A tier. Moonsnake. I like this enemy because it reminds me of something you'd see in Pikmin. A. Okay, this enemy, I know it's weird that this is the first appearance in the series, but Poison Piranha Plant. A. Tokyo, another capturable enemy and a super fun mechanic, so I'll give an S tier here. Sherm, a tank with a goddamn top hat. I mean, I'm no prude, I'm giving that an S. Snow Cheep Cheep, a purple Cheep Cheep, great. I'm not sure what's so snowy about them. D tier. I got the Stairface Ogres are basically just more decked out swamps. A tier. I remember playing Mario Odyssey and being blown away by the first time they captured the T-Rex. For that sheer joy it personally brought me and millions of others, I think an S tier is fair. Tropical Wiggle. Can someone explain to me how that's tropical? B. Uproot. Boring capture mechanic. D tier. Urban Stingby. I don't know what's so urban about it, it's just a fly. C tier. Yofu, a robot hat, and for any other game I wouldn't like them, but since this is the whole theme of the game, fine. B. As for the bosses, this game introduces us to the Brutals. Well, hopefully I'm not too brutal here. Topper. A finer looking boss teaches you the capping mechanics pretty fairly. B. Harriet, a rabbit that throws bombs. Not cool. D tier. Spewer. He spews poison. Funny name, but whatever fight. C. Ringo. Linky as rabbit with hair. I don't know, whatever, it's fine. B. Madam Brood. For early game, it's a somewhat confusing boss, at least for your first go-around, but teaches the mechanics, I think, pretty decently regardless, so I'll give a B. I love how the Knucklo tech is basically supposed to be a callback to Mario 64, and a good reminder of how far this series has come graphically. Also a reminder of how long this video has been going on. My god. Torque Drift. Seriously, what the hell is this supposed to be? Is it just so bizarre? C. Mecha Wiggler. This is so cool, like a futuristic Terminator type of Mario enemy. S tier. Mollusk Lancier. This fight pissed me off to no avail. I sucked at it and it genuinely made me mad. I'm giving this one a D, although I know that's pretty biased. Pupateel. What a goofy ass looking bird. D. The Ruined Dragon doesn't even seem like a Mario character. Like, this is so much of a flex from Nintendo. And you could argue this is PS3 graphics. They did it. A tier. And finally, Robo Brood. This boss is probably the best out of all the brutal stuff, although it can be actually a bit difficult. I'll give it a B tier.
Well, that's that. Around 600 characters ranked. I'm going to delete a few or add a few, depending on what I missed and what I didn't. But with the Super Mario movie coming out, I know this video is going to get outdated and I also couldn't sit there and take photos of the entire movie. If you guys like this video, I would not be opposed to doing more on Mario Universe at some point. I know the Mario movie is good. I personally had a few concerns with it. I don't like Mario's voice that much, but I think overall it looks to be a pretty good project. No matter what I do, the list would never be complete anyways. For example, if I talked about Paper Mario, the Origami King, the video would follow like this. Boring Toad number 1, F. Boring Toad number 2, F. Boring Toad number 3, F.
Internet, welcome to Food Theory, the show that's hotter than a ghost pepper and just as likely to make you cry. Today's gonna be a spicy episode all about spices. Specifically, why spices though? As in, why do we use them? That at first might seem like a dumb question. We use spices because it makes the food taste better, duh. But not so fast. Other animals don't spice their food, which means that within the animal kingdom, humans are unique in this way. Sure, there are some primates like chimpanzees that are known to chew bitter leaves before they eat, which suggests that they might be trying to enhance the flavor of what they're about to consume, but overall, humans are very differentiated in the fact that we use spices. That's kind of a big deal. Other traits that you'd assume are uniquely human are totally not. Having a sense of morality? Nope. Rats and monkeys have both been shown to reject food in order to prevent another animal from receiving electric shocks. Burying the dead? No again. Both elephants and magpies have been observed engaging in what's known as body care when another animal in their species dies. Basically cover the body with leaves and branches, sometimes even dirt to protect the body from scavengers. Even tool use is a trait that's shared between us and certain species of crow. So, the fact that we're practically alone in our use of spice is weird. But perhaps weirdest of all, the things that make spices spicy are aversive chemicals, which evolved specifically to keep organisms away. These chemicals are specifically harmful or painful to insects, fungi, bacteria, and oh yeah, mammals, a category that we humans happen to be a part of. The sensation of spiciness is literally your pain receptors being activated. You'd think that animals would perceive that as a bad thing, and indeed, it is a bad thing for all other animals, including mammals, yet here we are, actively seeking it out. So why? Why are we doing it? What is the history of human spice use, and what, if any, evolutionary advantage has it served us over the years? First, it's important to note that spices never used to be as plentiful as they are now. During the Middle Ages, a pound of black pepper was equivalent to 18 days' wages for a common person. Compare that to today, it's around $4, basically half an hour's wages at minimum wage. A pound of nutmeg back in the day, that would trade for 7 healthy oxen, as opposed to $20 of modern currency. Of course, the high cost of many spices in Europe throughout much of recorded history is explained by the fact that these things had to be imported. And international shipping was a lot slower and a lot more expensive when those things had to be done via horseback. But as you can imagine, with prices like that, spices, especially when you're talking about Asian spices, were used mainly by the extremely wealthy in medieval Europe. Which means that the next time you sprinkle some ground pepper on your meal, or you order a cinnamon latte from Starbucks, take a minute to appreciate that you're quite literally living like a king. Thus, it should come as no surprise that the cultures that have a long history of cooking with spices are the ones where those spices are native to the region. For instance, the famous habanero chili pepper originates in the Amazon, rainforest, not online store. And thus, all the countries that have a long history of cooking with the habanero chili are located in and around Latin America. Ditto for peppers like the jalapeno. On the other hand, in certain parts of the world, mainly Europe, spices were much less abundant. That's why northern European countries are known for having food that's notoriously bland. Sorry, I actually don't want to make any enemies here, so let's just say that the flavors of northern European countries are more subtle than the spicier cooking that you find closer to the equator. But availability only tells us part of the story. For example, take the Thai chili, commonly used in Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and of course, Thailand. This Thai chili must then have originated in Thailand. Obvious answer is obvious, right? Wrong! Like the habanero and jalapeno, the Thai chili actually originated in Latin America. Before they made their way over to Thailand, the Thai chili was more commonly known as the bird's eye chili. In fact, that seems to be true for almost all known species of chili. Ironically enough, the pepper famously known as the Thai chili didn't make its way to Thailand until the 16th century, when traders brought it over as part of the Columbian Exchange. Yep, Columbian, as in Christopher Columbus. If you want more info on that world-shaping event, check out last week's episode where we explored the food that they ate during the medieval times by looking at Medieval Times the restaurant. It is wild how much the Columbian Exchange changed the face of food from around the world, and peppers were obviously one major part of that. By the way, the fact that Christopher Columbus is responsible for introducing chilies to the rest of the world is also the reason that they're called chili peppers, despite the fact that these chilies look nothing like these peppers. You see, pepper and chili plants have two totally different genuses. A pepper is a member of the genus Piper, while chilies are members of the genus Capsicum. The reason why chili peppers are often called peppers is actually due to just historical error. In his classic signature move of just slapping on whatever label he felt like, Columbus tasted chilies that were native to Latin America and was like, hey, these are some hot, spicy plants. They must be related to that spicy black pepper that we have over in India. And from there, the name just kind of stuck, despite the plants being completely unrelated. Back to the point though, none of this answers the question of why early people started harvesting and farming spices to begin with. If you're a subsistence farmer, aka a farmer who grows crops mainly for yourself and your family, adding things to your food just because it tastes good seems like a luxury that takes away from time that you could be using to grow more nutritious food. So why are you doing it then? And more importantly, why would cultures that use spices outcompete those that don't in the evolutionary battle royale? What do I mean by that? Well, from an evolutionary perspective, a culture that wastes time and resources growing and eating things that don't have nutrition and are literally trying to be caustic potential predators, yeah, they should probably lose out to a culture that doesn't waste a bunch of time and resources on that very thing. And yet here we are, a spice-loving society. Survival of the fittest has dictated that spice savorers survive. But why? What gives? Well, I suspect that there are a handful of factors all at play here. First, notice the list that I mentioned earlier. Spices have chemicals that serve to keep organisms away, things like bacteria, fungi, and insects. That's good news for us because less bacteria means that the food is going to be able to last for longer periods of time. In short, foods that are heavily spiced are much less likely to rot. Now, take a look at this map and notice where in the world cultures use the most spices. If you look at which parts of the world are home to the people with a long cultural history of using spice in their food, high on the list are countries like India, Mexico, Thailand, Indonesia, and Ethiopia. Notice anything about all those countries? They're all near the equator, meaning that they're more likely to have themselves a hot climate. More heat means greater risk of meat rotting, and rotting meat can be home to all sorts of harmful pathogens. So a good spice rub, or or anything that can help reduce that risk can result in a big health benefit. Sure, it might not be as good as chalking that big old steak into your freezer for the next year until you're ready to eat it, but a little preservation of food is going to go a long way in the days before refrigeration becomes mainstream. Also, look at this. Most traditional recipes seem to use spices in ways that maximize their effectiveness. For example, cilantro is a spice that has antimicrobial properties, but only when it's fresh. Cooking the cilantro actually kills a lot of those health benefits. Now look at how cilantro tends to be used in various cultures. Mexican salsa, guacamole, ceviche, all places where cilantro is kept fresh and uncooked. Indian curries and chutneys, again, cilantro gets sprinkled on top, fresh. Cilantro and Vietnamese pho, thrown in at the end, fresh. In the Middle East, cilantro is used in tabbouleh, a cooled, fresh salad. The cultures that have lasted to pass down their recipes, and the recipes that persist to this very day, are the ones that preserve the natural health properties of the ingredients that they're using. On the other hand, if you look at spices that do get cooked, they tend to be things like onions, garlic, chilies, spices that maintain their antimicrobial properties even after the cooking process. All of these points support the idea that spices benefited early humans by adding microbe-killing properties to their food, reducing the risk of getting sick from the stuff that they were eating. And what's even more fascinating is that these cooking practices date back thousands of years, to a time way before we understood what microbes even were. I mean, our understanding of bacteria didn't come around until the 1800s. If we follow the theory of cultural evolution, the early people that started using spices in their cooking had a higher likelihood of surviving. They might not have known why people who ate spicy food seemed to get sick less and live longer lives, but over time, in certain parts of the world, the cultures that used spices in their cookings were the ones that outlasted the others. And the cultures that didn't tended to die out, or at least adopt the practices of using spice for themselves. And over time, scientists have come to a better understanding of why those long-enduring foods are more beneficial. Maybe that's a lesson that all of us can take away today. Lots of traditional recipes had health benefits long before we understood the scientific reasons behind why they were beneficial in the first place. And that's not all. While the spices themselves may not have nutritional value, by enhancing the flavor of food, spices may result in people just eating more. In one study published in 2008, researchers found that by adding spices, test subjects on average ate 60 more calories per meal. Now, it might not seem like that big of a difference, but it is a difference. And in the game of survival, every extra bit of energy is going to matter. Another study published in the British Journal of Nutrition found that adding red pepper to a meal increased both energy intake and feelings of fullness for overweight and obese participants. The researchers suggested that the increased caloric intake may have been due to the pleasant sensation of warmth from the pepper and the desire to just drink more water. In the end, I wanted to bring this random topic up because at every step along the way, it shows us that there are hidden truths under everything. These things we call Thai chili peppers, not actually Thai, not actually peppers. It was all because of one shady, geographically challenged dude from the 15th century. Why do certain cuisines taste blander than others? Blame Columbus. Again, we eat spices because they taste good, but why do they taste good? Why does our body crave them? Because they literally helped our ancestors survive despite being actively caustic to other creatures. Why do certain recipes survive throughout history? Because those are the recipes that preserve the natural health effects of their ingredients, thereby helping our ancestors survive and pass those recipes on to us today. The history of food is literally the history of life itself. And you know what? That is pretty darn cool. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. And hey, if you want another really awesome episode, check out our explanation of why everything tastes like chicken. Guess who's to blame? Yep, but also there's a lot of chemistry involved. That link is on the left. Lick it, stick it, whatever you do, just make sure you watch it. Meanwhile, the video on the right is one that YouTube actively chose for you, saying it's the best possible video for you to watch right now. Let me know if it was a good choice down in the comments below, and as always, I'll see you next week.
What can I say? I like doing human shit. I hate My Nintendo. I thought I'd take a look at the My Nintendo website for the first time in quite a while. I mean, I've taken a look at it, but not go fully in depth here, mainly because of trauma. I was never all too impressed with My Nintendo in terms of what it offered. I always liked how the website was laid out and designed. I think this website design is phenomenal. It's very well done. It has so many great little animations, it has such great graphic design, all that. But I never had a reason to visit this website. So what is My Nintendo? Well, it is a loyalty rewards program by Nintendo. It fundamentally replaced Club Nintendo, which had its own slew of problems. But I think we can all agree, you know, anybody that used Club Nintendo back in the day, they had some cool stuff on there. Not a lot for North American users. But in Europe and Japan, they had some great stuff. Pretty much, you buy Nintendo games, in them you get a little piece of paper that gave you a code to enter the Club Nintendo. You get points for your purchase, and you could build up your points to then exchange for certain rewards. And around 2015, Nintendo said, it's over. It's time to give up, Nintendo fans, because we're going to have a brand new loyalty rewards program. A worse loyalty rewards program. And that ended up being My Nintendo. Strangely enough, I believe My Nintendo was the name of a loyalty rewards program Nintendo had before Club Nintendo, or it was the original name for Club Nintendo, potentially in like other regions, maybe even North America. I'm not sure. I just remember My Nintendo was a name Nintendo used prior to Club Nintendo, and now they brought it back. They introduced this in 2016 right alongside their first mobile phone app, Miitomo. That should show you if this program was destined to succeed right out the gate. But ever since then, I don't really think anybody's had a reason to visit My Nintendo, but we'll take a look. This website hasn't really changed much. As you can see in the news section, it's been consistently updated. It's November 2022 when I'm recording this, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just came out, so they're mentioning that. But what we got here, one of the fun little things about this is the little animations your Mii will make. I have to select my little platinum coin. I get 30 points just for signing into My Nintendo Weekly. I earned this. So yeah, pretty much Club Nintendo back in the day, you just get coins for purchasing games and also performing surveys, so then Nintendo could collect information about what you thought of games. Of course, I think most people just, they didn't try in the survey. I always kind of tried. They would just add random letters and characters to the surveys whenever they'd ask you, like, hey, what do you think of this game? Well, I think My Nintendo has stuff like that. You have two coin balances, silver and gold, which is more complicated than just one. I don't like that. It kind of just separates things because there's certain rewards you can only get with silver coins. There's only certain rewards you can get with gold coins. So I do think Club Nintendo was simpler because they only had one currency. But let's see. All right. So the My Nintendo website, we got news here. Nothing super My Nintendo related. There's some stuff here and there. Like, enter the My Nintendo Family Fun Holiday Sweepstakes. What's going on here? So, apparently, this sweepstakes costs 10 My Nintendo Platinum points to enter. I already earned 30 today for logging in. That should show you these are some high quality prizes. We got the Rocker Gamer chairs. That's pretty neat. Little Mario Rocker Gamer chairs. A little mushroom plush toy, a Rematch wired controller, and a Nintendo Switch case. That's it. Yeah, a lot of this feels a little like, yeah, I don't know. These are mostly just, like pieces of Nintendo merch that were like licensed by Nintendo, not like made specifically by them, or they really had a huge hand in making. For example, the wired controller, yeah, it's really cool that there's a bunch of wired controllers out there with like Nintendo imagery on them that are made by like third parties, but nobody wants that. I think most people would agree, just to save up for a Pro Controller or something, but, whatever. That's cool that they have little sweepstakes, and it barely costs anything to enter, so pretty neat. And then we go down to this section that talks about the smart device app. So that's kind of the big thing, is My Nintendo is very integrated with their mobile games. Like I said, it was really integrated with Miitomo, and then Super Mario Run, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, Fire Emblem Heroes, Mario Kart Tour, Dragalia Lost.